Speaking out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome, everybody, to the Spotlight on Fightful. I am Stephen Jensen, and I am here solo right now. As you probably noticed, I do not have Jeremy Lambert with me, but he'll be joining me soon. He is currently on the conference call for, I believe it's WWE conference call. It's pretty early in the morning for me, getting this thing started, so I appreciate everyone who is here with us live. And yeah, as always, shout out to Big Dick MLJ. It's weird being here by myself on the screen, but appreciate you all for joining. If y'all have questions, anything you want me to talk about before Jeremy gets here, now would be a good time to ask, because I've got some time before he's here. So I'd be happy to answer y'all's questions, comments, statements, all that kind of stuff. Sorry if I'm kind of rubbing my nose a little bit. I don't know where you guys are in the world watching this. Where I'm at, the weather keeps changing. It's like hot, then it's cold, then it's rainy, then it's dry. And it's like, I'm getting totally messed with the weather right now, but I'm doing my best for y'all. Samuel Muscle says, y'all need a new intro, respectfully. I don't know. Maybe we'll do something new soon. I love Emel's voiceover for it, but I edited all that together kind of as a joke years back, like that whole intro that you see with our heads like photoshopped onto Cody and Danielson. I think it's funny, but it might be time for a new intro. You might be right. Thank you for joining the show and you know, being a part of the show today, Samuel. Regardless if you think about the intro, I hope you enjoy wrestling and the content here. Pile Driver Finisher says Jensen was coping with Roman returning to take down Cody. LMAO, Taker Beanie. Well, not only that, guys. We'll be talking about that when Jeremy gets here. Don't worry. We're gonna save the Roman Reigns and Cody stuff for sorry, y'all. We're gonna save that for when Jeremy gets here. So we will absolutely talk about Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, and yeah, we will definitely talk about this. Let's see. We got a super chat right off the bat. Says, will the Vikings be able to teach JJ McCarthy how to throw a football? So already with the trolling here, with trolling tweets, Chat Town Spurs. I appreciate you being a part of the chat as always. Hope you're having a good morning. So that's Vikings talk. I don't know how much people want to hear me talk about that right now, but I will say I am looking forward to I'm looking forward to the season. You know, the Vikings have, in my opinion, an incredible roster, and mostly of young talent at this point. You know, obviously JJ McCarthy is a big question mark, but he's playing really well apparently in the preseason, or at least like in the training camp, and he'll get a lot of preseason reps like in the preseason games. I'd imagine Sam Darnold will probably still be the starter at the beginning of the season, unless it's like undeniable that JJ has to be in there. So it's one of those things where, like, you know, we got Justin Jefferson, who in my opinion is the best receiver in the entire league, but I'm also biased. But if even without being biased, I think he's definitely top 2, top 3 at the very worst. So him, Jordan Addison, going to have a huge year, had a huge rookie year. Hopefully he doesn't miss too much time because of the, you know, this whole DUI situation he's in right now. But Jordan Addison's super talented, only in his second year. TJ Hawkinson coming off of, you know, big injury, but one of the best tight ends in the league. I think the highest paid tight end in the league. We lost to Neil Hunter on defense, but we replaced him with some really, really good players. We had a really good draft. So, you know, and there's other, I could talk on and on about the Vikings, but I'm looking forward to their season. You know, it's all going to kind of depend on how well Darnold can get the ball to the rest of the team and how the defense plays. But I love Kevin O'Connell as a coach. I love Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah as the general manager, and we'll see how it goes. It's all going to come down to the quarterback play, which obviously is a huge question mark because it's the most important position maybe in all professional sports. But you know, I'm expecting Darnold to start the season, but I don't think it'll take long before JJ to get that job unless Darnold's playing like at a level where we don't need to rush JJ. So, but thank you very much for the super chat. And how are your I'm assuming you're a Bears fan. I'm total gas with the Chi-Town Spurs name, but let's see. Maggie. I'm not sure what this is in reference to. I don't know if this is in reference to the Undertaker beanie, the Roman t-shirt, or me kind of fighting a cold here because of all these weather changes. Samuel says, I'm just Josh and steadily watching Fightful. Love y'all. Hey, I appreciate that, man. And that's the thing is like I can't tell, obviously, like when it's just like text, I can't tell the context, right? So I don't know if you're being serious. You're like actually, because it's so funny how petty people can be, right? Like some people might see the intro to the show and be like, "Oh, these guys are jokes. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to say something about it that I'm never going to watch again." But I appreciate that you're just joking around. I love that you're a fan of the stuff we do here at Fightful. And we love y'all too. Thank you very much for all y'all for being in here. It's such an early show, you know what I mean? Like I can't, you know, sometimes it depends on where in the world you are, of course. Like for Maggie, for instance, it sounds like this is at a really good time where she's at. But I always appreciate y'all for being here live with us early. And then of course anybody who watches this on demand, appreciate all y'all very, very much. It's a dream to do this job, and we've been doing the show, me and Jeremy, for over 2 years. Maybe probably closer to 3 now. I'm not even sure, but I think probably closer to 3 years now at this point. And I've been with Fightful overall for like 6 doing the Weekender and stuff. So yeah, I don't get enough opportunities to thank y'all because we're usually sitting here talking about wrestling. I'm talking to Jeremy, but thank you guys very, very much for all the support over the years. I love doing this show, even though I hate waking up early because of my shoot job. You know, I work over 40 hours at my shoot job. So 40 hours a week. And, so I do this before I do this show and then I clock in for my shoot job, as you guys know. So hopefully my headphones hold up today. I've been having some issues with that. We're actually going to switch those right now, so it's not a problem. Shout out to Dave and Buster's, by the way. That's where I got these little earbuds that work sometimes and don't work other times. But since I had so many tickets at DMBs, I went ahead and just got them. Gave them a shot. Let's see if this is any better. Headphones. Hopefully when Jeremy's here, I'll be able to hear him. But we'll get all that stuff out of the way. Jeremy should be here in about 10 minutes or so, y'all. Once again, he's covering that conference call right now. So that's why I'm here by myself. So I appreciate y'all for being here. And I apologize if this is kind of boring as I kind of kill time and get my stuff set up without Jeremy here. I'm not used to doing the show by myself. I'm used to doing the Fightful Select Weekender podcast by myself. If you want to check that out over at FightfulSelect.com. That's a little different though, because I'm I'm recording that isn't live, and I can stop and start and edit it and stuff. A bit different, but Samuel says it's all love, brother. All love, absolutely, man. Thank you very much. As I mentioned, Sofa Kit. See Jensen live, I tune in. I see Jensen live, I tune in. Hey. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That means a lot. Sam's getting ready for work. A lot of us are probably in that boat, right? I mean, you're either probably at work or getting ready for work, or maybe your job, maybe your work is being at home and being with your kid or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I know people are busy and they got stuff to do in the morning. So Crazy027. By the way, thank you very much for the super chats. If you guys have more super chats, this would be like the best time ever to send them because I've got nothing to do until Jeremy gets here. So I'll answer all your questions. Obviously, if you don't send super chats, I'm still going through these. Y'all are kind of carrying the show at the moment with me. But if you got super chats, I'll make sure to address them and answer them and all that stuff. Crazy027 says, with Roman back, do you worry about Cody's popularity dropping or losing his title sooner rather than later? I think that's a really good. Maggie said she could have joined, but she's pre-shower and looks like a witch. Maggie, hey, we'll get you on here sometime soon. I have had that in mind because after we talk, I will get your super chat in a second, by the way. I don't want to forget this. Maggie, I thought about that. I just don't know with your work schedule. I didn't want to like pressure you or, if you didn't have the time or whatever, but we would like to have you on sometime live during the show for maybe some random segments and stuff. Cause you're one of the few people where like the time lines up good for you. For a lot of people, it's really, really early in the morning to be asking them, but thank you very much for the offer. And I doubt you look like a witch. Come on. Cray, back to your super chat. I feel like it's a really, really good problem to have. And I will save some of this for when Jeremy gets here, as I know he for sure wants to talk about the Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes match and all that stuff. Or sorry, the Solo Sikoa and Cody Rhodes match, Roman Reigns return. That's what I mean to say. But I'll say for now, I'm not really. So as a Cody fan, I'm a little shook, right? Because it's like, what does happen if Roman is so over as a babyface that they feel like they have to get those titles back on him, and they're going to go back to like him versus The Rock, or like the plans can definitely change. Things are fluid, as we saw throughout that whole WrestleMania 40 documentary and timeline and all that stuff leading up to that show. All the changes that had to be made, and Cody basically getting that spot instead of The Rock because of fan voting, which is pretty unreal when you think about like Cody out popularized The Rock heading into WrestleMania as far as going for the championship. So got to keep that in mind also. Cody's also absolutely killing it when it comes to like the merch sales and all this. Like the business with WWE is through the roof right now. And I'm not going to solely give Cody credit for that. I'm not ignorant, but he, from what I understand, he does the like next few people on the list. Like when you see Cody's merch numbers and then you see like CM Punk and Drew McIntyre and some of the other people that are like up there towards the top, Cody apparently is doing like 3 times the amount of sales as like the next person down. So, I mean, that's huge too. So it's hard to know because you also have the 2 shows, right? You have Raw and SmackDown, and you have Raw moving to Netflix next year, SmackDown moving over to USA. What I would do personally, I would keep the Universal title or WWE title, whatever you want to call it, the one that Cody holds. We'll call it the WWE Championship. I would keep that on Cody, and I would move him to Raw. I would find a way to get him on that Raw Netflix show, and then I would have SmackDown be, Roman's the top babyface on SmackDown. So that's a pretty good problem to have. I mean, for the time being, both are going to have to kind of coexist in the same world. But I think eventually you can split the 2, and then you have 2 mega baby faces, one on each show. I mean, that's a really, really good problem to have, right? So that's more of how I see it. But there's a lot of things that can change, a lot of moving pieces. As I mentioned, things are very fluid when it comes to all of this, but that's kind of how I see it is, it's kind of the opportunity the WWF had back in the day when I'm not necessarily saying the Ultimate Warrior was the right guy, but like at the time he was super, super, super popular and the business was totally different. But, you have opportunities. Actually, the better example would be when you had Austin and The Rock. That's the best example I could give. When you had Austin and The Rock both at the top, where it was like 1A, 1B, clearly the top 2 stars in the business, but like fighting for that top spot. And both guys are like, I always nudged Austin just a little bit higher than The Rock personally. And I think business-wise at the time, but then you see what The Rock did like in Hollywood and all that. So it's like, look at those 2 guys. And that's kind of how I view it is we have an opportunity here for an era where Cody and Roman are basically Austin and Rock level type. You know what I mean? It's a different time. The business is different. TV is different, streaming, all that kind of stuff. I understand there's all those arguments that can be made and the conversations that can be had. But sorry, y'all, my neighbor, I think is like, I don't know what's going on. I can hear my neighbor who is an elderly woman. She must be moving stuff around. I keep an ear out because like if she, God forbid, if she like fell or needed help, or every now and then she knocks on my door, can't open like a can or something. He's like, help someone open the pickle jar or something, or, so anyway, sorry guys. But anyway, we'll talk more about Roman's return when Jeremy gets here. Thank you very much, Craig, for the super chat. Maggie says, what do you mean pressure me, LMAO? I've been trolling Jeremy about never wanting me on the show. Have we ever interviewed for you for the show, Maggie? I can't remember if we did a spotlight interview. I feel like we did, didn't we? But it's different getting you on live for sure. And I don't mean pressure in a negative way. I just mean like, sometimes it's tough, right? Like you might be just getting off work and then like rushing home, you need to shower, you need to do this, you need to run errands, stuff like that. We never had you on for an interview. I could have sworn we did. Okay. Maggie, I'm formally inviting you for an interview on the Spotlight. We will make it happen. I will DM you today. We'll schedule it. We'll get Maggie will be on the show soon. I thought for sure we had you on by now. So I'm sorry about that, Maggie. We will definitely have you on. Dial F for Film says, yo, Steven, it's been a while. It's good to see you. Yo, it's good to see you. I won't use your name because I don't know how anonymous you want to be. I believe you're still mainly offline, like social media and stuff, but Dial F for Film. Very good to see you too. Very good to see you. Dial F has been following me from platform to platform as far as like, you know, my old show with Doug, and Doug's still a good friend of mine. I got to catch up with him soon and see how he's doing. But support over the years, no matter where I'm at. So thank you very much, Dial F for Film, for being a part of the chat today. Power Driver Finisher asks, do we know if Raw's going to be 3 hours still? I would imagine. Boris says, how often do you pray at your Cody altar? So this is nothing compared to what y'all are going to be seeing soon. There actually used to be more behind me. So I have an office in here, a little home office. And if y'all have been watching the show for a while, you know, I change scenery every few months just so my backdrop's different. Everything looks a little bit different. Dial for Film says, you can call me Kogan. Okay, cool. I that's how I know Kogan is by the name Kogan. But, you know, I don't know. Sometimes people want to, you know, kind of, you know, stay anonymous or, you know, don't have their stuff out there. But Kogan, it is great to see you, man. But as I was saying, I have an office in here, and it's been a long process, but I have been remodeling, I guess you'd say, my office, and I'm almost done. It's probably going to be done it'll be done by this weekend, and I'll probably stream back in there this upcoming week. And it's pretty on. It's my magnum opus. I have put a lot of work and effort into the way that this looks. And one of the walls in that room is literally just Cody action figures since he's returned from the WWE. I mean, just a wall full of those. I've got a wall full of AEW exclusives. I got a wall full of AEW signed figures. I've got a wall full of loose figures, elites, ultimate. I mean, like, it's signed 8x10s, GCW signed posters. I mean, it's my everything except for my trading cards, which has become a big problem lately. I've gotten very, very, very into the WWE cards, which is an expensive hobby. That's another conversation for another time. But yes, I do have my Cody. We'll call this the Cody altar right here. This is actually technically my kitchen that I'm sitting in right now. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, technically, doing this with this behind me. So it gives you kind of an idea of, you know, the way that I'm living, I guess. Ring Rogue says, do you think tonight's SmackDown could lead to a Jimmy Uso return? I think it's possible. I think that's probably maybe a good call. It's actually probably a really good call. He's got to return eventually, right? And get involved in this whole bloodline civil war that's been brewing. You know, we'd imagine he'll be on Team Roman and continue to build to, you know, eventually Roman, Jimmy, Jay, maybe Sami Zayn. Maybe Solo Sikoa goes back over to the original bloodline side as well, potentially. So we'll see how this all plays out. But I think that's probably a good call, Ring Rogue. I think we could very well see Jimmy Uso on SmackDown tonight. Power Driver Finisher says Jimmy should return and botch all his spots, and he and Tonga Loa can have that kind of beef. Oh no, that'd be pretty funny. I apologize. I don't know if y'all can hear that behind me, but like so there's no way my neighbor is doing that by herself. No disrespect to my neighbor. She's actually, for her age, she gets around really, really well. I see her walking around the complex all the time. She's a very nice lady. I worry for her. But there's got to be someone in there because they are moving around a ton of stuff and I can hear it. Let's see. Jimmy should return. What's up with Tongaloa, by the way? Is he actually hurt? I know he's wearing that eye patch. Or is he just like, I hate to say it, is he just like that bad that they're just like, because I know obviously he's gone viral for some of these clips and stuff in Japan with what he had done. But I mean, I remember him as Camacho back in the day. A lot of people watching this might not even remember that he was in the WWE previously, but he was called Camacho, and he was the bodyguard for Unico. Unico, this is so confusing to explain. Unico became the fake Sin Cara, I believe. Was it like Sin Cara Black or something like that? Because there was like the blue Sin Cara, and I think he was the black Sin Cara, or like the dark Sin Cara. I can't remember what they called him, but he was like the evil Sin Cara or whatever. And then when the actual Sin Cara got let go by WWE, Unico as the evil Sin Cara then became Sin Cara. It was so confusing that whole timeline. But Camacho used to come out on like a bicycle, and I never thought he was that great personally, and I really was never a big fan of his run in Japan. Although the Girls of Destiny did have some really good stuff as a tag team, I'm not going to deny that. But I don't know what's going on, because you would figure if he was healthy, the tag team champions on SmackDown right now would be the Girls of Destiny, and instead it's Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. So that just leads me to believe that Tonga Loa is either hurt, or they're just like, he just doesn't have it in the ring, so he'll just kind of hover around as a bodyguard, and maybe in like Hell in a Cell or whatever multi-man matches we get in the Bloodline Civil War, he doesn't have to be involved so much that they can kind of hide the weaknesses and protect him. Maybe, I don't know. Oh, Joe says, I'll get back to all that. Joe, thank you very much for being in the chat. Says Jey Uso and Sammy versus Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga would be better. Oh yeah, that'd be sick. I mean, I'd imagine we'll get the actual Usos reuniting, but I think that Sami Zayn and Jey Uso that'd be awesome too, because of the history. I like that idea a lot. Tyler Deanna says, morning, Stephen and the Spotters. Morning, Tyler. Thank you very much for being here. By the way, what ring are you in front of in your profile picture? I've always meant to ask you that. But thank you very much. I know you're in here all the time, so thank you for being a part of the show. Chuck Cage says, or asks rather, does Cena versus Rhodes happen at Netflix night one? That's a really good question. I don't know when that happens, but I think it will happen. That's one of the main. That's actually the main thing. Obviously, I'm biased, but that is the main thing when Cena announced his retirement tour, and me and Jeremy were talking about potential matches and all that kind of stuff. I was like, well, he's got to pass the torch to Cody. The seeds have been planted for that. It could be babyface versus babyface. I think Cody needs to win that one. Although it wouldn't be the end of the world if he lost, to be completely honest. Like that's obviously the amount of respect I have for Roman Reigns. We're in a Roman Reigns t-shirt. We're going to get to that. The amount of respect I have for John Cena. If he beats Cody, it's not the end of the world. But I think that he should lose to Cody. And I think it makes sense if they did that on the first big Netflix show. I think that you might be on the money on that, Chuck. Let's see. Boris, thank you very much for being a part of the chat. It's a wild profile picture. It says, people who know much more than me have said yes, Tonga Loa is that bad, they don't want him wrestling on the show. I mean, that's kind of how it seems. There is Jeremy. Hey, let's get this up here. Where's the little thing that says our names?
Oh, Brand. Hold on.
Oh, you can't hear. I can't hear you. Hold on. Sorry. Give me a second, Jeremy. I had to change my headphones while I was on the spot here because my Dave & Buster's went down. Can you say something real quick?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I'm good now. What up, Jeremy?
What's going on? I think the names are going to be going because the comments up. So there you go. So,
okay, cool.
Outside. Okay.
But yeah, I'm with you, Boris. I think you could very well be right on that. He's either hurt or they are not confident in him, because otherwise I don't know why Jacob Fatu would be in GOD essentially and not him as the tag team champions.
Tonga Loa rules. I mean, what is this discussion? He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Like he's helping bad wrestling be on national television. It's fantastic. In a time where there's great wrestling every single day, every single night, we need people like Tonga Loa who just do comedy unintentionally. We need it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's entertaining as well. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, we were just talking about that because someone had asked if Jimmy Uso maybe returns on SmackDown tomorrow. And we were just kind of talking about Bloodline Civil War. And I've also been mentioning, Jeremy, I don't know if you can hear it, but if you hear stuff like banging around in the background, there's an elderly lady. She's a real sweetheart that lives behind me, and sometimes she comes over and she needs like help opening a pickle jar or something, or like getting her, someone to jump her car or something. And she's real nice, needs help with her air conditioner and stuff. I usually help her out. There's got to be someone in there, like they're moving a ton of stuff. There's no way she's moving this stuff herself. Like I can hear furniture moving around behind me. But
you should bury her. It's more fun if you bury her.
Linda, what's wrong with you, Linda? You can probably hear me say that. Actually, yeah. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Linda. I hope you're okay. I can hear the furniture moving.
Go bury her. Just be like, what are you doing over there? Don't you know I'm a big YouTube star and I have a show to do right now, and you're interrupting my show? And then hit her with like a DDT.
Okay, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, Crossroads. Girl, what's up?
That move sucks. It doesn't beat anybody.
Guys, I didn't mention at the top of the show, there's going to be an interview airing with Adam Barnard also today, which was a really, really good interview. If you're a 90s, 80s, early 2000s kid or whatever, like the nostalgia is gonna hit you. It was a really good interview. And speaking of interviews, Jeremy, we've never had Maggie on the show for an interview. I thought we totally have before, and I guess we haven't. So I invited her. We'll get a day locked in, but I could have sworn that we had Maggie on the show before, and I guess we haven't. So we got to book her. It's happening.
Maggie's welcome anytime. She can pop on the show right now for all I care. I think she has StreamYard access. Yeah, I almost had her come on. She said that she was about to take a shower and she was looking like a witch, was her exact words. But no, now it's actually a good time for her to jump on as far as like the time of day that and it's part of her world. Bulgaria, right? That's where she's at. That's where you're at, Jarrett, Maggie. I'm really bad about keeping up logistically with everybody. Anyways, Jeremy, I haven't talked about hardly anything. I talked a little bit about Roman's return, but not a whole lot. I'm leaving the meat on the bone for you and me to talk about that. So if you want to hit the WWE bumper, I haven't talked to Bronson. I just been answering super chats and stuff from the chat, but I know we'll have to go kind of quick with the. Well, let's answer this super chat because this is more you than me, and I want to go ahead and make sure we get this. But did you answer that? Oh, I've already answered that. Okay. Oh, we've talked. We talked a little Vikings and JJ. I'm looking forward to the season. I've already been buying JJ McCarthy rookie cards. Like I'm stocking up. So all right, have you answered that one? I've answered every super chat. Okay. So this is the only reason why there's the starred gimmick, and you can unstar it and then it goes away. And that's how we keep track of if the super chats are taken care of. I see. Yeah. I don't know all that stuff. I also did not do a local recording. So I don't know if that matters, but all right, here we go. My best.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
One story that is not finished is the story of Rhodes and Roman Reigns. It's not finished because the tribal chief, the OTC, is back to reclaim what is his, which is the tribal chair and the undisputed WWE championship. Jensen, Solo Sikoa would be undisputed WWE champion on this day if it was not for the tribal chief Roman Reigns. So, as the number one Cody Rhodes fan in the world, I feel you owe a thank you to the tribal chief. You should acknowledge the tribal chief. Look at that. That's a sweet logo too. Kind of rules. It is like the jump man kind of like Jordan, obviously that's what the inspiration was, but yeah, man. Sorry, I'm a little distracted at the moment. I don't know what all this noise is. I'm about to go out there and say something here in just a second, I think. Tell him to. You know what? I'm going to do that right now. Give me just a second. Go fight him. I don't want to be distracted in giving you these answers about Cody and Roman. Give me just a second. I'm going to mute myself and see what's up. Don't mute yourself. So Jensen's going to go and fight this old lady for being too noisy. I'm going to narrate this Jensen thing. All right. So the door's open. Hey, can you guys keep it down out there? Can you quit fucking? That's what it sounds like you're doing around there. Sounds like you guys are having too much sex and it's interrupting my very important professional wrestling show. I'm about to talk about Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare. Cody Rhodes, have you heard of this man? He's the undisputed WWE champion, and he's the greatest champion of all time. I narrated what I assume you said to these people.
No, well, it's actually, I was wrong. They aren't, they're not behind me. They're actually above me. It's someone, they're on my roof, working on my roof. Of all the times they could be doing this on my, I live in a condo complex. So there's like, I'm connected to all these people. And it's like, of all the times in the world possible to be up on my roof, literally right above me banging. It's like when I'm doing this, of course. Anyways, hopefully it slows down a little bit. But anyway, sorry, y'all. As far as Roman's return, so what were you saying? Like that Cody needed Roman? Is that what you're getting at?
What do you mean? What am I saying? This is factual comment here.
Well, Jeremy, when it's you versus the world over and over again, it's like
what?
It's like Cody has. I mean, he's gonna need backup. Of course, he's gonna need backup. It's him versus the bloodline.
You versus the world. This man's had friends the moment he got to WWE.
Yeah, but still, it's bloodline rules matches where that he's going to be outnumbered. I mean, we didn't know what the status of Kevin Owens and Randy Orton were until pretty much right before the match when Arn Anderson appeared out of nowhere. And, that was cool to see. Do you think that was pretty cool, Jeremy? Can you admit that? It was pretty cool to see Arn Anderson.
I couldn't hear a word Arn Anderson said. So
fair enough. Well, he did reunite with
it was cool to see him. We just couldn't hear anything in the stadium.
He said something about a Glock, I think. I couldn't hear it very well.
Nah, he didn't say that because everyone would have popped for that one.
No, I'm kidding. No, it was good. I mean, you can obviously hear it on television. But he basically said that he has a few friends that have his back, essentially foreshadowing that Kevin Owens and Randy Orton were going to be coming out and helping him if he needed it. But then the big surprise, obviously, was that Roman was going to come out and save the day. I think this was a great move. I really do. I think this was smart. It accomplished a lot of different things at one time. And Roman's obviously massively over. Being there in the crowd, what was that like? Like that pop when Roman came back?
Oh, I don't think television did it justice because it was huge when we saw the, you hear the music, but it was sort of the new intro to the music. But when we saw the graphic on the screen, like it was huge. And then we saw him on the big screen once they flashed that up there. That was big. And then once he got in the ring and delivered the Superman punch, the acid in the stadium.
Yeah. I mean, on TV, and now I know it's a little different on TV because of like when you're doing a stadium, the way that the sound travels, it just makes it. Sometimes it's hard to translate because of all the open air and the way that the sound actually moves. So, but on TV, just for what it's worth, like it came across massive. But I could only imagine how much that really. The best way I could probably describe that is like I was live in the crowd at WrestleMania 33 when the Hardy Boys returned, and that was a huge pop on TV. But like being there in the crowd, that was nuts. Like that was maybe the most fun I've ever had. Like the place was just partying that like the Hardys were back for this ladder match, right? And it was awesome. So, anyways, so at the end of the day, like I'm obviously I'm happy Roman returned. I'm happy he saved Cody. He's now on a list of people who have helped Cody out that I have gained more and more respect for. If it wasn't
Cody continues to just need help, can't do it on his own.
Yeah, but I'm not going to fault him for that when it's him versus multiple people over and over and over again. Like,
how many people was he against Logan Paul? Why do you need so much help in that match? How many people did Logan Paul have helping him?
Logan Paul had like the random people on like in the crowd and stuff, right? And then the dude wasn't it like match? I can't. That was the one that was the Crown Jewel match, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember because there was the guy with like the Prince or whatever, right? That helped him.
Yeah, the Prince helped Cody.
Yeah.
The actor helped Cody, but I don't think Logan Paul had anybody helping him. Logan Paul had brass knucks, sure, but not a person.
Did no one show up in a Prime bottle or anything for that one? Was that like not I Show Speed or anyone in that one? I can't. So. I get all those mixed up. Anyway, I mean, we all know what that was all about, though. That guy. What's it? Do you know his name? The guy from Crown Jewel. We're trying to think of the Prince. Or
no, I cannot.
Because I've seen him pop up on other stuff like recently. I think maybe with the UFC or something. Like I've been seeing him kind of more recently as a part of these big events. But anyway, that was the whole point, was like to get him on the screen or whatever. But anyway, Logan Paul, that's a whole other conversation. We're not going to even get into. There's so much stuff going on with him right now outside of the WWE with lawsuits and suing people and stuff. It's a mess. Prime's apparently suing him now, or one of his bottling companies. He is in a lot of stuff right now. But that's a whole other conversation for another day. But yeah, once again, I'm not going to fault Cody for needing help when he's evening the odds. And obviously Roman coming back, he didn't even like tease us, which is great. We for months since WrestleMania, it's been clear that Solo Sikoa is not actually either in communication with Roman or actually relaying the messages truly that Roman is giving him. Solo has been going into business for himself. Solo has built his own bloodline and his own vision with his own new people. And Roman returning, I love that it wasn't one of these things where it's like, who's he going to hit? I mean, you kind of had that down the ramp, but like the second he rot in that ring, it was Superman punch, spear, locked right in on Solo. He is here to take down this new version of the bloodline and kind of reclaim what was his as far as like the head of the table. But then you still have a lot of meat on the bone there because him and Cody never stopped locking eyes. Like even when Cody was making that pin on Solo, he was looking directly at Roman Reigns, and all the way up the entrance ramp, Roman and Cody were looking at each other. So, there's a lot there. I think we'll get Cody and Roman teaming a little bit, maybe as like a superpowers type thing a little bit. But I was saying this before you got in here with Raw moving to Netflix at the beginning of the year, they're in such a good spot because this is like if you had the Rock and Austin back in the Attitude Era, but you had the shows split. That's kind of what we're at right now. I kind of feel like is you could have Cody maybe go over to Netflix for Raw again and be on that show. And then Roman's the top babyface on SmackDown. That's a good spot to be in with two mega baby faces and you have two shows. So I think that's ultimately where everything is going to be heading. So I'm excited for it. I think it's actually worked out really well.
They're really babyface heavy, which is almost strange to say because they were for so long, they couldn't get a babyface right. I mean, the failed just experiments of Roman Reigns are really all the evidence you need of that. But Bryan became their top babyface almost by de facto because they underdogged him so much that the fans cheered for him. Cena was their top babyface, but the crowd booed him for the majority of his run. Like they could not get a babyface right for the longest time. And now you look at it, Cody is easily a top tier babyface. Roman coming back is now a top tier babyface. The pops Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley got on Monday, they are top tier babyfaces. LA Knight is getting mega reactions. Seth still gets really good reactions. Even Punk. Punk is a little middled, kind of because the feud with Drew, but Punk is still the overall babyface and still gets a good reaction. Like they have so many top tier babyfaces right now, which is again kind of insane because for the longest time they could not create a babyface to save their life. Now, like the heel side, actually they need some stronger heels over there to go up against all of these guys because they're doing just fine on the babyface side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's definitely different than it has been in a long time. They're in a good spot with the baby faces. I know this wasn't one of our topics, but like congratulations to LA Knight for beating Logan Paul. And I know I've given him a lot of lot of flack over the years, but a lot of that was out of my own kind of insecurity a little bit, because I didn't want him being the one to beat Roman, to be fair, because there was a lot of talk about that a couple years back. It was like LA Knight should get it, not Cody, and I was like, no, let's not go that far. But I think where LA Knight's at right now, pretty damn cool for him. And another thing that I think is really worth mentioning about a guy like LA Knight is his peers, the way that they speak about him. I pay attention to that. There's a lot of people inside and outside of WWE when LA Knight beat Logan Paul that they were tweeting and like congratulating him and saying like, dude, this guy's been grinding for so long. Like we're so happy this, like, he finally broke through. So I want to give him his credit. So yeah, it's awesome. We're in the spot with all these top baby faces. Sami Zayn, could wind up in the bloodline again, potentially, and stuff. I mean, he was massively over, heading into last year's WrestleMania. And so, I mean, like, you're right. They're in a really, really good spot right now with how many baby faces they've got.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Sammy, Jey Uso, Orton, Kevin. Like, all of them get huge reactions. So yeah, they're doing just fine on the babyface side. Again, they got to build up some people to actually challenge these guys, because right now they got Gunther. They made Bronson Reed. We'll talk about Bronson Reed here in a second. They did a good job of making him, but otherwise, like, they're kind of lacking on the heel side. They need to build up some strong challengers for these guys.
Yeah, well, that's actually a good segue into talking about Bronson, if you want to set that up.
Yeah, so Bronson Reed came out and basically destroyed Seth Rollins on Monday, hit him with 6 tsunamis. Rollins was coughing up blood, which was a good visual, and apparently Rollins is going to be taking some time off, which you would expect. You do a big angle like this, like, you're probably writing the guy off of television. You're not expecting him to be coming back next week from everything. So they made Bronson into a destroyer in one little segment here. Bronson had been sort of middle of the pack since returning to WWE a couple years ago, and now he's at the top of the heap on Raw. And like we were just talking about, like, they need some heels to challenge some of these guys, and they don't have a ton. This is a quick way to make one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I talk about my brother a lot on this show and on the Weekender and stuff, because I always consider, like, he's not even a casual wrestling fan, because he does not watch any wrestling on his own. He would never go to a show on his own. He'd never watched the WWE, AEW, GCW, or anything if I wasn't in the room with him and I had turned it on myself. But because he's around me so much, he knows a way more than just like the average fan does, because he watches it more than most people do just by association with me. And he was marking out hard for Bronson Reed on this segment. And I usually let him as a pretty good litmus test for some of this stuff. And so I went on Twitter and I started looking at like other responses people had about this. And it seemed like this really worked really, really well across the board. These people are annoying the hell out of me on my roof, by the way. This is incredible that of all days and times that they're doing it right now. This is insane. Anyways, when Bronson did that, and the thing for my brother and for me and everyone else, I think that was so cool was like, it's like, for one, he comes out and he attacks Seth Rollins. That's a big deal right off the bat, because Seth is already in position as he's one of the top baby faces in the company. He's still currently technically in that feud, that 3-way feud with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, which is a main event level feud. He, of course, main evented night 1 of WrestleMania with The Rock and Cody and Roman. Seth's as high up as you can possibly get in the company without actually like being the champion, So I think that's a huge deal that he even attacked Seth to begin with to plant seeds for like a match between those two guys. And if Bronson won, that would be insanely huge for him if that were to happen. But it wasn't even that he just attacked Seth. It was that he went up top and did the tsunami, and then he did another tsunami and another. He did like 6 of them. And it already looks impressive seeing a guy his size fly off the top ropes the way that he does. And to watch it over and over and over again, and then for them to add that extra, the blood and everything for the effect, it was like, that's how you make a monster heel right there. And the thing about this also that's, I'm very optimistic about is we already know that Bronson Reed can work. Like, he's a good in-ring wrestler. He had a really good quick run, like in the Indies and New Japan and stuff outside the WWE also. And, kind of hot and cold since coming back to the WWE, like kind of some stops and starts where it looked like, a push was coming, then nothing much really came of it. But now that's, clearly there's big plans for him to come out and destroy Rollins the way that he did. And like I said, man, if they do Rollins versus Bronson and like Bronson actually wins the first match, you can do a trilogy, you can have a rematch, you can have ways to make Seth, save Seth or make him look good or whatever. But I'm not necessarily saying that they should have Bronson beat Seth. I'm not necessarily
I think they should.
Do you? I mean, I'm not against it though. I'm just saying, like, I want to see how this all plays out and how the reactions are and everything. But I'm not opposed to it. I think, because also it's like guys like Omos haven't really panned out. It seems like they've kind of like given up on him. Like, they need some big athletic dudes who can go out there and like be monsters. And I think Bronson, man, if he beat Seth Rollins, that'd be huge. Like, you really made somebody if you did that. You've already made him to a degree for sure with just the attack. But if you actually beat Seth, that's a whole nother level you're putting that guy on.
I think you should have Bronson win. Like, they're probably going to do at least 2 matches. It's fine if Bronson Reed wins the first one of that. I don't think it hurts Seth. I'd see, Dial F for Film saying there's pickle here. On one hand, Bronson needs to win a little credible, keep momentum going, but Seth taking an L would probably hurt his momentum for the Drew Punk angle. Seth taking an L, let's say end of August, let's say Bash at Berlin, that's end of August. Seth losing a match at the end of August, but then coming back and winning, let's say Bad Blood in September. That show's in September. Oh, no, they don't have a show in September. October. Winning in October, he'll be fine. He can take an L at the end of August and then pick up the victory again, Bad Blood, or maybe even on an episode of Raw. Maybe they don't go all the way to Bad Blood. He'll be okay with this Drew Punk stuff because I think he's out of the Drew Punk stuff for now. I think Drew and Punk are going to continue their own thing clearly from what we saw on Raw, and Seth is going to be. Seth brought a weird energy to the match on Saturday. I actually want your thoughts on this Punk and Drew match because I've seen a lot of people who've been divided on it, where some people thought it was great and the storytelling was perfect, and then other people were like, this was a slow-paced mess that didn't make any sense.
So a few things about everything you just have mentioned. Like, when it comes to the Seth and Punk, McIntyre and Punk first. I mean, there were things about the match I liked and things that I didn't like. I mean, they were clearly, even on commentary, they were referencing SummerSlam 97, which we talked about on this show and stuff. And obviously the way Seth was dressed was, kind of similar to.
Yeah, they did the spot.
They did the spot with the chair. Yeah. But I think they kind of overplayed the bracelet thing, even though, it's the story. It really depends on what you like. I'm not going to sit here and like bash really any of it because like the story has been about that bracelet and stuff. So I'm not like necessarily irked or anything or surprised that would play it into the match, but I feel like maybe it did a little too much. My brother asked if it was a Connor bracelet because he knows I have one of those. He didn't know what it was because he hadn't seen the story. And I was like, no, it's his dog and his wife. And my brother was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. But, and I had another friend of mine actually who usually watches AEW, watched the show with me, and he liked the show, I think, for the most part. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of torn on it. There was stuff about the match I liked and stuff that I didn't. I really liked that McIntyre won. I said the whole time heading into the match, I thought he needed to win this. And then also the way that Punk, hit the GTS on Rollins, it sets up stuff between them. And that's also full circle because I wanted to, this all ties together because let's just say, hypothetically speaking, like we have, at some point we'll get Seth Rollins versus CM Punk one-on-one.
Yeah.
And will that be another one of these like choose your own adventure type scenarios where they leave both of them as kind of gray areas and you kind of choose, similar to McIntyre versus Punk, who you like more, but they kind of position Punk more as the babyface by the time the match happened. what I think is possible that I'm not seeing anybody bring up is I think CM Punk as a heel works way better. That's just me personally. I said that about him in AEW also. Like, I think he's a better heel than he is a babyface, honestly. If they want to go full on heel with CM Punk by the time you do Punk versus Rollins, if that's maybe where they're heading, you can call this whole thing back as Punk sent Bronson to attack Seth. Like, Bronson could be like, CM Punk's always liked having like bodyguards and stuff like that too, or having people around him, like factions and stuff. So like, I could see that maybe being a possibility where similar to like Powerhouse Hobbs or someone in AEW that Punk saw a lot of potential in, maybe Punk saw Bronson and was like, hey, we're not doing a lot with Bronson. Like, he can be my bodyguard. Like, like we can, so maybe let's keep that in mind too. Maybe Punk sent Bronson to attack Seth.
Okay. I never thought about that. I like that. I don't know if that's the way they will go, because Bronson did the backstage earlier with Adam Pearce where he's like, I'll go create my own path. But yeah, it's very possible that Punk got in his ear and was like, look, this is a way to do it. You could easily tell that story, because I don't think a lot of people are expecting that. I never thought about it until you said it. So very possible. A couple super chats here. Cray says, can Bronson be the new Mark Henry Hall of Pain 2.0? I do think like he's probably going to keep destroying people. I do think he should beat Seth in the first match, and then that'll add some extra credibility to him. And then what you do with him after that will just depend. It's tough because you just put the IC title on Braun Breaker. You don't want to take that off of him too quickly. And I don't think Bronson's really the guy to beat him. So it doesn't feel like he's going to go after that title, at least not yet. So what do you do with him sort of after he beats Rollins? Does he move up to face Gunther? Then you're kind of at the heel dynamic. So it's this isn't a bad thing for Bronson, because we just said they need to make heels. When it comes to titles, it's a bad thing because the top two champions on Raw are both heels. So him feuding with those guys it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So he's got to feud with the baby faces around them, which is fine. They got plenty of those guys, as we just mentioned. But it just becomes a weird dynamic of he's not going to go after a title. He's just going to be in kind of non-title feuds, which nothing wrong with that, because considering the baby faces that they have are really top baby faces. So we'll see if they're able to kind of make him there. And then Chi-Town Spurs gives us a super chat, says blood feuds greater than bracelet wars, in my opinion. And did they really need Seth now that he's been immediately written off? So this was my kind of critique of the match, Punk and Drew. I understand the bracelet stuff. I understand the entire story they're telling with that. Is it necessary for this? That's where I'm like, there's already so much story with them. They've already like said so much, done so much, whether it's the trolling online, whether it's the Drew's reference, like Punk hurt his career way back when, just Punk being back in the company and everything the company has done since Punk was gone, everything Punk has said when he was gone. Just that alone is enough of a story. It did feel like a blood feud, and then it became about a bracelet. And my main critique is like the intensity felt wrong for this match. It started off good with they immediately started punching each other. They didn't do lockups and holds and things like that. But the intensity felt off basically when Seth took the chair from Drew. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, you're fine with them beating each other up on the outside and they're hitting each other, Punk or McIntyre swinging them through the table or into the table, going on the steps, and Seth is like laughing, tying his shoe and everything. But then a chair gets involved and like, nah, let me take this. Like, for this match, like, it should have been more intense, more heated. And then they did the bracelet stuff. And again, I get it. I don't think in a vacuum it's bad. I think for this feud, it's the wrong story for it. Again, understand it, get it. I'm not like mad at it or anything, but I just think it's the wrong story for this feud. But it's going to continue, and the bracelet will continue.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think a lot of people agree with you, and one thing that was, when you probably couldn't hear this live, but whenever Punk hit the go to sleep on Rollins and then took the bracelet off of Rollins' wrist and took it back for himself before he got dick kicked and Claymored, he said to Seth, he was like, "It's not always about me, but it's never about you." And I don't know what that's actually supposed to mean. Like, it's because like it's definitely been about Seth plenty. Like Seth's like literally one of the top guys in the entire company. I would argue it's more about Seth than it is about Punk in a lot of ways when it comes to WWE. I get what they're getting at, but Punk does a lot of heelish stuff. But once again, it depends on who you like and who you don't like. Kind of choose your own adventure. But I like that McIntyre won, and I mean, as I was saying before the match even happened, I was saying have McIntyre win this, and then probably Punk will win a rematch, and it'll probably be at like WrestleMania or Royal Rumble or something, or we'll get Seth and Punk at WrestleMania. We'll get some sort of combination of these three guys in triple threats and singles matches between now, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Bad Blood, all this. So we got a lot to look forward to, I think, with those three.
Yeah, they're gonna. I mean, Punk and Seth is continuing. I imagine they'll do something at Bad Blood. Whether or not it's Hell in a Cell. Look, Hell in a Cell is going to up the intensity, obviously. You're not going to, let's say, keep doing bracelet stuff, and all of a sudden Punk is not going to throw Drew off the top of the cell because he's got to, make sure he retrieves his bracelet first, which who knows, maybe he will. But yeah, the bracelet I could have done without with all of that storytelling there. Anything else from WWE?
No, if something else comes to mind, I'll maybe bring it up on the spot, but I know we don't have a whole lot of time, short show today. So, well, not really short show, but you couldn't be here very long today. So
yeah, I had to listen to billionaires talk about how much money they're making. Sorry.
Well, it's okay. we should probably just get to the other topics just so we get to everything.
I'm apologizing to our audience for being half hour late because
it's okay. I told them what was going on. It's no problem. I was like 10 minutes late because I didn't think I was able to kill a half hour by myself, so I killed about 20 minutes by myself. But no, it was fine.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. It was a great show, and I think it's been a run of great shows.
AEW Dynamite last night, headlined by Jeff Jarrett against Bryan Danielson in one of the greatest matches of all time. Jeff Jarrett, he somehow worked himself into a main event spot in 2024.
Yeah.
When you want to talk about all-time great workers, like you got to put Jeff Jarrett on that list. You just have to. The fact that he is still 2024 working at this level, main event, he's going to face Hangman Page at All In. That's the match they're setting up.
Yeah.
Like they are setting up Jeff Jarrett against Hangman Page. It is amazing that he is in this spot. What'd you think of this match and Jarrett's just spot overall on this show?
So first of all, the match was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, these guys did everything. They were fighting around the arena. Jeff Jarrett's taking suplexes on trash cans. Danielson's taking strokes onto steel chairs. The finish itself was sweet. I don't know if I've ever seen Danielson do his running knee like while holding a chair like that. That was awesome. I mean, there was a lot of spots in this match that were awesome. I mean, even Danielson like fighting out of the figure four with the chair and stuff. Like it was a really, really good match. Jeff Jarrett, dude, because you'll relate to this because we were both watching wrestling and we're both the same age at this time. But remember how much hate Jeff Jarrett was getting even before TNA, like when he was the WCW world champion and people were like, this guy, like of all people, like we're down to Jeff Jarrett as the option. Like, it was NWO Black and Silver. Like this is not like it felt like WCW was hitting rock bottom that Jeff Jarrett had become the main guy. And that wasn't even like necessarily a giant knock on, it was kind of a knock on Jeff Jarrett, but a lot of it was like the perception of Jeff Jarrett being kind of like the IC title level guy or like the kind of redheaded stepchild of like the Four Horsemen and stuff like that. It was, you just didn't, I didn't see him as like the top guy. And I don't think a lot of people did. And then when he went to TNA and, obviously he founded TNA and he was he was the champion there. And, I still stand by, he should have dropped the title to Monty Brown. Like, that should have for sure happened, but it didn't. But, Jeff Jarrett, even then, people, same kind of stuff. Screw this guy. Like, why is this? He's booking himself to beat AJ Styles. He's booking himself to be in there with Sting. He's booking himself to be the champion. He's booking this and that and Planet Jarrett and all this stuff. And he got a lot of hate for years and years and years. Did stuff with NWA. But the thing about him is it's like the combination of his family lineage, his actual amount of talent, and just how he is just like survived and advanced for this long. I think that's why he's at where he's at now, is like, because the fans you have to respect it. Whether you were a fan of his or not 20 years ago, like, you've got to respect that in 2024 he's putting on performances like we're seeing right now, and that he's still as relevant as he is right now is unreal. And the guy, I mean, I followed all this stuff, the whole like Global Force Wrestling stuff. I read his grandma, Christine Jarrett, Teeny. She was really big in the Nashville wrestling scene. Like, did a lot of big like promoting for the Nashville Fairgrounds. I read a book about her years ago and stuff. Like, the family is fascinating. Obviously, his dad Jerry, and there's so much about that family. And I think that's why Jarrett is in the spot he's in right now, is like, you just look at how many companies he's been a part of, companies he's founded, and just what he's overcome as far as like fan perception for so long. And I think it's just, it sounds very basic to say it, but it's just, you just have to, no matter who you are, if you're even a fan of the guy, you have to respect Jeff Jarrett at this point. I mean, you've got to.
Look, here's the
well, not necessarily like making an argument for you, because I know you do, but I'm just saying for anyone who's watching this or listening, like, you've got to, even if you don't even like him in the ring or whatever, you think he's too old or you don't want to, like, you've got to respect that he's doing what he's doing right now.
Here's where, so I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate here. Everyone knows I'm all for Jeff Jarrett being in the main event. I'm all for Jeff Jarrett having these spots. Like, I think it's hilarious. I think it's fun. I don't know if this is right for AEW.
I mean, I get that. I know. I know. I know. You don't even have to elaborate on that. Like, I understand that argument as well. Because on the flip side, I was saying, I just threw out it was random, but I just threw it out like the other week. I was like, Heyman doesn't have an opponent for All In. Just throwing him in there with like Kyle O'Reilly or something. Just let him have a banger. But it's like, Jeff Jarrett's pretty much the opposite of what I was thinking about. But no, go ahead. If you want to, feel free to elaborate if you have more to say on that, though. But I kind of get what you're saying. It's kind of the opposite of the original AEW mission statement to have Jeff Jarrett in like this kind of position. I get that too.
Yeah, like that's where it's just weird to me. Again, I think it's hilarious. I think it's fun. But you just mentioned it in like 2000. People are like, why is Jeff Jarrett the world champion? And then the whole TNA run, especially the early days of like, why is Jeff Jarrett doing this? Now he's come back around to like, oh, nostalgia, Jeff Jarrett, this is cool. Because when he first joined AEW, people were like, why is Jeff Jarrett on this show? But now it's not even why is Jeff Jarrett. Like, Jeff Jarrett's in a main event spot. He's going to face Hangman Page. People thought Hangman Page, like, not like deservedly, people thought Hangman Page should have been facing Swerve for the world title at All In. Mm-hmm. Now he's facing Jeff Jarrett. Look, the story makes sense. The feud makes sense. They've set it up well. I'm not saying this is they haven't done a good job of building this and making it important and telling a good story here. That's not my issue with this at all. I'm just looking at in 2024, Jeff Jarrett being the guy in this position doesn't feel like it is true to what AEW should be or what it was originally intended to be. Yeah. Like, if you had told me in 2019 when AEW started, 5 years from now, you know who Hangman Page is going to face? Jeff Jarrett. And I would be like, what? Huh?
And also, a couple years before that, he'll be wrestling Ric Flair in the Nashville Municipal Auditorium along with Jay Lethal.
Hangman might be in the gauntlet match. Maybe maybe Jarrett and Hangman are in the gauntlet match. Maybe that is where they actually do end up on this show. But there's certainly built into some type of singles match between Hangman and Jarrett. That is undeniable. Maybe it's not at all in. Maybe they are in the Casino Gauntlet and they interact through there. But we're getting a Hangman Page, Jeff Jarrett, big time singles match, whether it's on Dynamite or at All In or maybe All Out, not sure. But like, we're getting that match, folks.
Yeah. I mean, this begs the question: how big of a Jeff Jarrett fan is Will Washington? Is that what's really going on here? I'm trying to figure out how is this happening? Who's pulling the strings to make these things happen? I love Will, by the way. I think it's super cool that he's doing what he's doing in AEW. But yeah, we're definitely gonna get Jeff Jarrett versus Hangman Page in a big match. And I also want to mention, just so I don't forget, from last night, obviously Swerve came out after the match and basically said, if you can go this basically toe to toe with Jeff Jarrett, imagine what I'm gonna do to you at Wembley. Like, you feel like, if you're losing feeling in your fingers right now after a match like this, like it's going to be bad news for you at Wembley. I thought Swerve cut a pretty good promo after the match. And so I wanted to mention that too. And he got a big pop for like this Who's House, Swerve's house, like big reaction. So, Swerve, I don't feel like we don't really need to defend it at all at this point. We never really did, but there have been some not so great AEW crowds in recent weeks where like sometimes it's kind of hard to gauge the overness of some people, and like some of the crowds, I felt like the Swerve's house was kind of dipping a little bit, but then you watch the overall show and you're like, oh no, it was the whole show. It wasn't just him. Last night, like you got a big reaction. I thought the main event was great, so I thought the sit down with JR was cool. Like I think they should do, that's probably the best spot you could have JR in AEW, is doing stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell kind of how I feel about Hangman, Swerve, Jarrett, and all that stuff.
I thought AEW did as good as a job as they could last night. It seemed like it was pretty clear that travel affected some plans. The crowd was fine. North Carolina is usually a good state. North Carolina is a state, not a city. Winston-Salem was the city for wrestling. And like the crowd reacted to the stuff I thought they needed to react to, namely the main event and Swerve. And then we had the Mercedes Monae Britt Baker promo as well, where Britt returned from suspension via video screen and said that, when things get tough for Mercedes, she takes her ball and she goes home, and she's going to beat her at All In. We haven't really talked about Britt's suspension, which turned out to be real due to an incident with MJF. What do you think of this segment? And if you have any comments on Britt being suspended in reality?
I really don't, because I don't know enough about, I don't think anyone really knows enough about the situation. Obviously, I mean, I say obviously, I'm assuming, which you really shouldn't do, but I'm assuming it couldn't have been that bad if it was like a 1 week suspension. But, I did read the story on like Fightful Select and stuff about, the reasons. And, I thought it was interesting, MJF didn't have a suspension. Britt did, don't know exactly the reasons behind all these things or what was said or what wasn't said or done or whatever. But it leads me to believe it couldn't have been that serious. It's just kind of a bad look on AEW when you've had the history they have with certain, backstage fights and fallouts and incidents and, high profile people leaving and stuff like that. Like, it's not a good look when you have more of that, but I also don't think it was that big of a deal, probably, especially because Britt was on the show last night through that video promo. And I thought the video promo was really good. Like I those are the same kind of critiques I would have for Mercedes Moné if I was her opponent. If I wanted to talk trash about her, those are the things I'd say to her too. I think that it was smart. And I'm looking forward to the match. I think that Britt versus Mercedes will be a really good in-ring match. And I think they're both going to be very over. The crowd's going to be really into it. And I think there's a little bit of realism in what she was saying too, because I wouldn't be surprised. And this isn't even a knock on Mercedes. This is just the current state of the WWE at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Mercedes went back to the WWE when her deal was over. I think plenty of people will go back to the WWE when they're able to, now that there's a totally different regime in place than when she was there last. I'm not saying that's what she's going to do, but I think we could see it. I don't think Britt's necessarily telling lies,
Well, Mercedes had the option.
Right. We'll see
in
how
this
it
latest
goes.
round.
Yeah.
Mercedes had the option in this latest round to go to WWE and still decided to come to AEW. Like it's good. It's good television fodder, but I'd imagine she's under contract for at least 3 years. Typically, that's what the deals are for.
I'm not saying that I think she's gonna like have some falling out with AEW or like leave or she's trying to get back to WWE. I'm just saying like we're in an era right now where I wouldn't be surprised at all if people we thought we'd never see back in the WWE wound up back in the WWE is all I'm saying. But I think that what Britt said in her promo is like it's kind of low hanging fruit, but it's like that's not a bad thing. Like those are the things that I think like you should call out if you're trying to get that kind of response. Does that make sense? Like it makes sense that you would bring that stuff up in a promo when she's in a feud with her.
Yeah. It's going to be a good match. I'm looking forward to it. I do think they'd probably be smart to get Britt in a match beforehand because clearly the time off affected her. Like that Sheeta match, we rarely see a bad Sheeta match. And that Britt and Sheeta match was a little rough in some areas. And I think Britt needs to get a little bit more ring time in because she's been off for so long. Like she hadn't wrestled since September. And then she's had one match back since then, which was the Sheeta match. And Mercedes is someone who works at when she can, works at a real quick pace. And so I think Britt needs to maybe get some more live reps in there because I'm a little concerned that the match falls flatter than it needs to just because of the lack of reps that they potentially have had together.
I think that's a good call. I'd agree with that. One more thing before we move on. This is great. Joe in the chat says Shane O'Mac versus Double J. That would literally be the anti AEW mission statement match right there. would be something like that. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Britt needs to step it up a little bit. But it's going to take two to tango. It's going to be on her and Mercedes to put together a good match with one another in front of a humongous crowd, which is going to be no margin for error. So I think they'll pull it off though.
Well, I think it'll be good. I just hope that they do get a little bit more ring time because I want it to be good. I don't want this to go out there and then fail because I think the feud has been good so far. And so they deserve to have a good match out of it. Let's move quickly. We'll go to Indie Spotlight because there's a couple things I know you want to hit on.
I'm going to give a big motherfucking shout out.
Jameson Shook, good for you. We had Jameson on the show, I think 2 weeks ago at this point. I'm terrible.
Yeah, I'm bad with time too.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. We had Jameson on the show. And I know the match you wanted to talk about was Dylan Hales against Negative Lee. Yes.
Just check the match out over on IWTV. Use code Fight Talk. It's independentwrestling.tv. I'm hoping to hopefully get Dylan on here at some point. I would love to catch up. I interviewed him. I've actually interviewed him a handful of times over the years, but it's been a long time since the last one. And I used to see him in person more often as well at shows. But I would love to get his thoughts on this. Maybe we'll try to get Negative Lee's thoughts on this sometime soon. Try to get him on. But Negative Lee and Dylan Hales are actually related to one another for real. And then you have Papa Hales, who's the father of Dylan, who was on the outside of the ring, also getting involved in this. This match was, I can't do it justice. I was thoroughly entertained by this match. At one point, just to kind of paint a picture of how ridiculous this thing was. At one point, Dylan put Negatively over his knee to give him a spanking. And he's giving him a spanking. And then he grabs a gusset plate out of his pocket and Negatively moves. And Dylan gussets himself in the thigh. I just thought that was the funniest thing. And then the actual finish of the match, Dylan takes a box of oatmeal cream pies and he cream pies Negatively in the face. And then he locks in his Tennessee Cloverleaf, his version of the Texas Cloverleaf, which he does a very, very good version of that move. Like he locks it in nice. I got to give credit where it's due because the Texas Cloverleaf is my favorite submission hold in the history of professional wrestling. And when people don't do it well, it bugs me. Dylan locks that thing on perfectly. And Negatively was knocked out. Negatively was technically knocked out by the oatmeal cream pies. But then Dylan, insult to injury, put him in that Tennessee Cloverleaf, and the referee, called it, I guess, by technically either knockout or technical submission, however you want to say it. But yeah, check that match out on IWTV. Check that whole show out. Jameson Shook's good for you. over there on IWTV. Support them. They did the show at the TW Arena, where we see a lot of shows that I cover on the weekend or we talk about here. So yeah, shout out to the whole crew over there, and shout out to Dylan Negatively for honestly, no joke. I unironically enjoyed the match between those two, and I got a lot of respect for both those guys. Negatively newer to the game, but doing really well. And Dylan's a guy I've said 1,000 times. There's very few people that I respect on the level of Dylan Hales on the independent wrestling scene for what he does in his mind for stuff and the people he's involved with and the companies. So yeah, congratulations to those guys for putting on an entertaining match that, I think it exceeded my expectations. So.
And the other indie spotlight, Louis mentioned Jeff Jarrett going to GCW to beat Effie again. We had Matt Hardy at GCW facing Nick Gage, and they're going to end up teaming against each other at Homecoming against Matt Cardona and Broski Jimmy.
Yep.
Nick Gage and Matt Hardy, they tried.
Yeah, it wasn't a great match. I'll keep it 100 here. I love both guys. Nothing but respect for the King Nick Gage and V1 Matt Hardy or whatever alias you want to use for him. But yeah, see what I think happened in this match, to be honest, is I think both guys went out there and just figured we're both going to be massively over. We'll just go out there and wing it. And I don't think Matt was super familiar with all of Nick's move set, and the thing is it just didn't mesh very well. So I'll keep it real. I don't think the match between the two was very good, but I don't think it was necessarily. Let me put it this way. I don't love all these GCW matches lately, especially main events, just having non-finishes. That's been happening a lot lately, for sure. We'll talk about that another day because some limited time, but that's definitely a gripe I have with you. I love GCW, but that is one gripe I do have with the company right now. A lot of non-finishes for big matches in main events. But I think that, Matt versus Nick wasn't necessarily designed to be a good match. It was more about these two guys beating the hell out of each other. And then out of mutual respect, they were going to be teaming. And it was a no contest because Broski Jimmy and Matt Cardona came in and interfered. And it looked like Nick Gage was probably about to get the win. He had just hit Matt Hardy with a pile driver on a bunch of open chairs. So Gage was probably going to win. And it set up the tag team match at Homecoming, as you mentioned. It's going to be Matt Hardy and Nick Gage teaming up against Matt Cardona and Broski Jimmy Lloyd. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be good. I'm really looking forward to GCW Homecoming. It should be a great show. And GCW is making big moves. They just announced another huge, the second biggest mall in the world, in the US or whatever. They're going to be doing a show in soon and stuff. So a lot of great stuff going on for GCW. The main event, I'll keep it real once again, wasn't a great match, but it is mainly just there to set up that tag team match at Homecoming.
I'm with you on these non-finishes on these GCW shows. It feels like it gets away from what GCW is supposed to be about. And
most of their matches are just no rules. So it's why is some of these DQs and no contest,
exactly,
and some of them aren't? Yeah, for sure. I get it.
Exactly. Just beat guys. I don't think the GCW audience really cares who wins and loses. They're just there to kind of have a good time. And it'll be okay if Matt Hardy or Nick Gage takes a loss. It'll be fine. So yeah, I'm with you. Every time I watch some of these shows and I see these Effie and Mance were doing non-finishes and
a lot of them.
Yeah. And I was like, what? Why are we doing this kind of stuff? But anyway, yeah. And then we'll real quickly hit, as I know you got to run.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
Sammy Guevara is back. He's in ROH. There you go.
Yeah. I'll let you elaborate on that because I do have to clock him for the shoot job. But yeah, I think that's strange. I don't know what the reason for that is. I saw people speculating, and this is reckless speculation. I'm not reporting, and this probably isn't even true. But I had seen people well, Mercedes and Sammy Guevara don't really have the best history. Maybe that has something to do with Sammy being on Ring of Honor or not AEW. But I've also heard that Sammy had things written for him in AEW that either he didn't want to do or just didn't wind up happening. Maybe he was going to be a part of the learning tree again. And he was like, dude, I'm not doing anything with Jericho again. You got to be kidding me. I have no idea. But it is strange that after all this time away, he wound up in Ring of Honor, especially because he's an AEW pillar. And so yeah, I guess confused is how I feel about Sammy Guevara being in Ring of Honor, not in AEW right now.
I think it's fine. I don't know where he'd fit in AEW right now, honestly, because unless you're going to reattach him to Jericho. So let him get back in Ring of Honor. He's doing a prove yourself with Dustin Rhodes and we'll see how it goes. But I'm not fully against it. They got so many spots in AEW that this is what Ring of Honor should be utilized for. It should be utilized for guys that they just don't have time for on AEW television, instead of trying to cross as much as they do. Just get some good stories going in Ring of Honor with guys who are underutilized in AEW. And Sammy is a guy who has been off television for reasons, and then I don't know where he fits at AEW. So I'm fine with it. All right, Jensen, I know you got to run.
Yeah, all good. I've got my work laptop here. I'm going to try to swing around the corner. My dad's calling me. My dad's at the Boxing Hall of Fame right now, and I think he might want to see if I want anything. Oh. Well, thank you very much for watching the show with me and Jeremy today, y'all. And thank you very much for bearing with me at the top of the show when I was by myself. I really appreciate y'all. The chat carried the show this morning until Jeremy got in. So thank y'all very much. You can follow me on X at FightTalk _, follow me or use code FightTalk on independentwrestling.tv. And watch. I'm doing the wrong outro. I'm doing the outro like I'm on the Weekender. Listen to the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. It's every Sunday, sometimes Mondays over on FightfulSelect.com. And enjoy this interview with Adam Barnard. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And yeah, it was good seeing you, Jeremy. Good seeing the chat. And I'm already late for work, so I'm going to clock in for the shoot job. And hope y'all have a great Thursday.
I hope they stop fucking upstairs and you can get some work done.
Yeah, it seems like they finally stopped around the time that our show ended. So luckily we got to deal with that the entire time till then. But anyway, y'all have a good one. See you, Jeremy.
Thanks, buddy. All right, everybody, let's get into this interview with Adam Barnard. He is from Foundation Radio. He also does Mind of the Meanie with the Blue Meanie. Really fun time with Adam. I got to meet him in person this past weekend at SummerSlam weekend, and he's been on In the Weeds a couple of times before, so you might have seen him there. But really fun getting to learn his backstory and just everything he has done in wrestling and in media up until now. And we talk a lot of nostalgia. If you were younger, you might not get a lot of the references, but there's a lot of nostalgia talk. The early days of the internet is a prevalent conversation that we have during this interview. So here we go. Adam Barnard in the Creator Spotlight. Welcome back, everyone, to the Creator Spotlight. I'm still Jeremy Lambert. That is still Stephen Jensen, and we are joined today by Adam Barnard. You know him from Mind of Meanie. You know him from Foundation Radio. You might have seen him this weekend doing some interviews from WWE SummerSlam, talking to Rhea Ripley, talking to Jade Cargill, talking to Bailey. Adam Barnard, thank you for joining us here in the Creator Spotlight. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you guys having me here. Thanks for the invite.
We appreciate you joining us. It was great to finally meet you in person this weekend. You've been on In the Weeds a couple of times. One very impromptu, the day after, or I guess technically the day of Eminem album drop, and we were literally discussing the show. And I sent you the link of like, we got to talk about this Eminem album. But I was messaging with our pal Haley, and she was like, "Oh, we're getting lunch." And I don't know who we is when she says we're getting lunch. So I didn't know who this was. And then she was sitting to where I saw her back. So I actually saw you first when I saw everything. And I just started pointing. And that was it. And that was all we needed.
I knew it. I was like, there he is. Finally we get a chance to link up, man. Yeah. Actually, the Eminem thing was funny because I was sitting there at work and I'm reading that really terrible take
so
on
many.
Oh my God. I can't even remember the website, but it was trash. Whatever it was garbage.
Pitchfork had a terrible one. Hip Hop DX had a terrible one. There was a few of them.
It was another one because we were both like, oh, it's on the, if you go to right here is where you can follow me. You can find the clip that I clipped from In the Weeds, but that was my first mistake going to there. And the first thing in my head was, I got to tell Jeremy how bad this is. And then like I swear to God, it was 30 seconds. I get the StreamYard link and you're like, can you come on? I was like, bet. Let me shut my office door and I'll come through. But no, yeah, a lot of bad faith actors on that realm with Eminem's new album, and I'm gonna hold fast on that forever and ever until the end of time. But it was great finally meet you in person. Cleveland was a blast. It was a lot of fun. It was a very busy weekend. So maybe by the time this comes out, I'll have my vlog done and it'll be up on the YouTube page. We got plenty of time to talk about that. But Stephen, it's nice to meet you in person, virtually, if you will, sir.
Absolutely.
So thank you for having me, guys.
Well, first question here is just how did you get started in this space of wrestling media?
So Foundation Radio actually started as my college radio show. So actually before that, I had a show. So like when podcasts first came out on Apple, like nobody knew what they were doing, right? I had just gone to a broadcasting school in Connecticut, or actually was the Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And Howard Stern at the time was leaving terrestrial radio and everything was falling apart. So I was looking into this podcast thing, and my buddy Kurt, who's been a friend of mine forever, he goes, he sounds like Eminem. He's like, yo, dog. He's like, you should call this Foundation Radio because that's the dopest stuff of all time. He said another word for stuff, right? And I was like, actually, dude, that's a pretty solid name. We had no idea what we were doing. And then when I went to college, I ended up on WCUR 91.7, which is the station in Westchester, and we were one of the highest rated shows there on the platform. A couple years later, we rebooted as a podcast, and Foundation Radio was born. But I didn't really start getting into the wrestling until the pandemic hit. Like, I've always been a wrestling fan. I've always been, someone who's watched religiously from the time I was like 5 or 6. And I thought maybe it's the time to start exploring some of this stuff, because I do music and I do politics and I do all kinds of other stuff on the show, but I never really dipped my toes into it. And the first person that I had on from the wrestling world was Conrad Thompson from Ad Free Shows. Wonderful guy. He was great on the show, and it just kind of snowballed from there, and it picked up steam. And now I'm here doing interviews with Bailey at SummerSlam. It just became I've had a lot of support in the space from a lot of different sectors and a lot of wonderful people that I work with, a lot of great folks that I collaborate with on a regular basis. And I seem to just fit in kind of everywhere I go, which is great. So that's really how it got started was pandemic. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this damn podcast? Cause I just had Goldberg was on the show, and Tommy Chong was on the show, and then all of a sudden the world shuts down. I'm like, oh crap, so it just kind of became a thing from there. But
yeah, that's actually fairly similar. I can relate a lot to when I was in college, I was there from 2006, 2010. So that was, I was a part of my college radio station down in Statesboro, Georgia Southern University. 91.9 The Buzz was the station. And, I had my own little MMA show. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because back then it was this is fun, but I don't think I'm gonna have any kind of career in anything that's like this, because my major was sport management, and I didn't know what I was gonna do with my life. I just thought it was a cool kind of job to have in college, and my friend kind of hooked me up with it. But then podcasts really blew up, not right around that time, but a handful of years later. Yeah. And what was it like? Because I know from me, it was the gates had just opened. It was wait a second, there's this whole other medium now. I was recording podcasts off of my iPhone. I was doing anything I could to figure it out, but it was the technology was there enough. And I was watching guys like Joe Rogan and Sam Roberts from Opie Anthony back in the day and all that. And I was paying attention to all that. What's it been like seeing, because it sounds fairly similar to kind of what I went through as well. Seeing just the progression of just being able to broadcast the way that we're able to broadcast now versus what it was like back when, you were doing college radio.
Oh, man, it's interesting because college radio, I mean, you remember we had them old dusty boards with the lousy mics on it. If you throw Easy Lover by Phil Collins and Philip Bailey on right now, I will still hit the post 10 times out of 10, with the radio voice and everything on the air. But it's amazing because it's this unique way for kind of anybody to have a voice, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. It's a really cool way to be able to continue the love that I had for broadcasting and the love that I had for creation back on the radio station in a way that's completely in my control, right? Foundation Radio is not on any networks. It's not on any, it's an independent platform. I own all my own content. The name is mine. Everything is mine. And it allows me a lot of creative freedom to kind of do whatever I want. Like I said, I'm not just pro wrestling. I talk a lot about music. I talk a lot about politics. I deliver, we play Dungeons and Dragons on the show, right? It's something that's a little bit of something for everybody on that platform. But it definitely is unique, especially thinking about it back, when me and a couple of guys, my buddy Mike Jr. and a couple of other guys, we created it, and it was so lousy. It was so stupid. And it was us recording into this crappy little Microsoft computer that was totally destroyed by LimeWire in the early aughts, we didn't even really have microphones, right? We didn't even know how the hell we were going to record into this thing. And then we ended up in the other guy's basement sitting around and oh my God, this is insane. Why are we doing this? And all the audio is crap and there's no way to upload it functionally. And it's just amazing to see the progression of where things have gone and the availability of the technology too. I mean, this stuff was, when I started on Mind of the Meanie, the team at Rhodes sent me some stuff over to record, and it's just amazing to see this in action. And it's I wish we would have had this at the we did a reunion show in 2019 at WCUR, and friends of mine, I was in the Jackass scene back then too, and so Jess Margera came through and did a spot with us. And it was just amazing to see the upgrades in the station. And like, it's just, it was kind of wild to see the differentials between it. But I'm glad this exists in like these platforms, because I'm sure, like, it's the ability to just kind of be alive and be creative in a space that you made as opposed to somebody else.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sorry, Jeremy, just real quick. It was interesting that you just brought up Jackass and kind of that era, because I was actually just watching music, because I was actually watching a YouTube video yesterday about the Bloodhound Gang and like kind of their association with the CKY and Jackass crew and stuff like that. And I remember the Bloodhound Gang, they're a group that could never really exist now, probably. I don't know if they make any current music. It was like probably the least politically correct music you could probably find, but like for the time it fit in so well with like that early 2000s like Jackass scene. But I think it's really interesting that you cover all that different type of stuff. I think that's really cool.
Thanks, man. And like I said, it's part of who I am, right? Like I've never just been a pro wrestling guy, like it's the majority of what I do right now, but I'm very passionate about, as Jeremy will tell you, rap music. Hip hop music has been something that I've always been focused on my entire life. Like, I'm a big photography guy, so I love talking photography with people and politics. One of my close friends is Robert Costa from CBS News. He and I were we were teenage journalists back at the Bucks County Courier-Times like 20 years ago, and we stayed friends ever since. So every couple of months he'll come on the show and we'll do an election update, and it's just it's fun. Like I said, it's the ability to be able to do whatever I want on my own platform in my own terms without any restrictions. And it's kind of nice. It's nice. Now, obviously it's not always great with people who shouldn't have the platforms, but it's definitely nice.
Did you back in the day ever use Blog Talk Radio?
I don't think I did. I don't think I ever used that.
I feel like that was the first like sort of platform that anyone could kind of jump on and really get their name or their brand out there, because you could take calls on that, which was something different. Yeah. It was kind of innovated for the time, honestly, because the other way to do it obviously would just be like, I used to record stuff on Mac on like GarageBand and then just upload it to a site in whatever hosting site I was using. And that's how it would go. No mics or anything. Kind of like you were saying, just we all sit in front of one little computer and this is how we record ourselves. But Blog Talk was like super innovated for the time. I hosted a battle rap podcast on Blog Talk Radio.
Really?
It was, I was big into the battle rap scene. We'd had live battles on there.
Man, so funny you say that, man. When I was in high school, a bunch of my buddies, so my buddy Scott Sparks, who is no longer with us, he was the best rapper I had ever met at the time, like in person, right? 16, 15 years old doing this crazy rhyme schemes. And we used to set up battles back behind the Pizza Hut. So at my school, Council Rock North in Newtown, Bucks County, you'd walk through the field and you get right to the Pizza Hut. And a bunch of us would just gather around and we had these crazy rap battles. And I filmed the one. I wish I still had the video, but it's been lost to time, unfortunately. But it's so funny you say that, because I was trying to figure out a way to like battle rap. And the one kid that would battle rap would send me clips of him like recording into that like lousy headset into instant messenger. And you'd get these gigantic files that would destroy your computer. And I was like, oh my God, man, I forgot about all that. Like, it's been such a ride with some of this stuff. And, like using Audacity and using GarageBand and MySpace, like trying to upload this crap anywhere that anyone will listen to it. But yeah, dude, that's so crazy. Did you rap? Were you a battle rapper, or were you just
I could not. I want to battle rap Top Dollar. He knows this. He is ducking me. I will continue to call him out.
He's busy training for the ass whooping he's going to give to Muscle Man Malcolm on the 24th of August. So and Malcolm already knows this as well. And I told him when I saw him this weekend, you're going to get your ass handed to you, dude. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but
wait, is Malcolm actually having a match with him? Like, what
yeah.
Oh, is he really?
Jobber Slam, August 24th in New York. It's going to be Muscle Man Malcolm and AJ Francis, and AJ Francis is going to whoop that ass.
Now that we can freely talk about this, when we had Malcolm on the show a few months ago, it was in the early stages of this all coming together. He was like, don't say anything, don't put it out there, but we're really talking about it and I'm training for it and we're going to announce it hopefully soon. So we were kind of clued in early on this, Jensen, of this actually.
That's right. That's right. Well, I knew he wanted to get in the ring. He'd been talking about that a long time, and I know he met John Cena. John Cena gave him the name Muscle Man Malcolm. He related that to. I forgot though. That's right, dude. I can't. because we've had Malcolm on a few times. Yeah, he's a good kid. He's becoming a man now too. He's going to go from kid to man.
His voice is dropping. He's actually becoming a man now.
Yes.
You know? So yeah, every time I see him, he's here a lot. He's at my house like all the time. He never stops. But he reminds me of how old I am. And so, like for example, at WrestleMania, he lives close to me here. And I wanted to go get a new pair of Nikes, and I didn't want to look like an old dad getting ready to mow the lawn. And I was like, hey, you're a pretty hip cat. You can come with me and buy shoes, right? And he was like, don't call me a hip cat, and I'll come with you. I'm like, all right, cool. So we go there, and I get these really nice pair of Air Jordans. I'm getting ready to pick out socks. And obviously, as a millennial, a geriatric millennial, I pick out the ankle socks. And he goes, my dude, put those back. I was like, why? He was like, respectfully, you'll look like a broken down skater. And I was like, brother, like, first of all, you're out of line. Second of all, you're right. And so now I'm like constantly battling myself with these like long white tube socks that make me look like a goofy gym teacher. And it's like, this is what's in style now, dude. This is weird. I don't like this very much.
I hated that this weekend. Hanging out with like Ella and Jose. All these people are young. You were hanging out with Haley and Malcolm. It's like these people are like 8-10 years younger than us. Like, oh, this sucks. I feel like, so old.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm so old. Like,
we
it's
got
just
kids
day,
and everything. Man. Like,
I got 4 kids. Like, I've been, I just turned 39 on Monday, and like, I'm just so old now.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I used to be hip, man. I promise. And that's why, like, so speaking of Jackass, to tie it all back to that, like, we were talking because we all went on a road trip. It was me, Muscle Man Malcolm, Sir Wilkins, and Alex, Queen of the Ring. We all drove out to Cleveland from Philadelphia. And in the group chat we're setting everything up because Wheezy Blonde stayed with us as well. I'm like, oh man, bet like we're gonna play some CKY in the car. We're gonna play some him on the car. We're gonna throw it back, because Alex and I are big like him fans as well. And Malcolm, I swear to God, goes, what is this old man stuff you're going to play? This white emo BS is what he called it. And I mean,
app description, honestly, app description.
Listen, him for sure. To ban him is for sure that. But CKY, sir, bite your tongue. And
sure.
So I had to explain who CKY was. And then I had to explain who Jackass was because he didn't know Jackass other than Johnny Knoxville wrestling Sami Zayn. And immediately I was like, all right, I'm going to go register for AARP now because I'm old. Like, I just need to be dead now at this point.
There's so much lore there too, because that could even go back to Big Brother magazine. Like, I mean, you could he probably never read a magazine before he's so young. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's like, who the hell's Bam Margera? I'm like, I need to sit down. I need to rest.
Some of this stuff is really taking me back because me and Jeremy are both 36. So we're in your
how dare you? I am not. How dare you?
Are you not?
No.
35?
Yeah.
Okay.
When's your birthday?
September.
Okay, you're 36 in a month.
Look, I'm holding on to 35 as long as I can, right?
Okay. Well, anyway, the point is, this is very relatable for us. Having this kind of conversation because you're also mentioning stuff like you brought up LimeWire earlier. I mean, that's a throwback. I mean, those were like what I consider the Napster offshoots for the generation that's too young to know what we're talking about. Napster was like the first site that or server, or whatever you want to call it, file sharing service that really blew up so that we could share MP3s, peer to peer. That was the big thing, P2P file sharing. When that got shut down, then we had LimeWire and Kazaa and BearShare and all these things that would just destroy your computer. But also how I discovered indie wrestling back in the day. Shout out to Amazing Red and Trent Acid. I used to watch a lot of their stuff, allegedly maybe on sites like that. As a matter of fact, we were talking about how much things have progressed and using like GarageBand and stuff. Back when I started doing interviews with wrestlers, I was literally taking an old iPhone that just had like the video recorder, just to pick up audio. And I was taking another phone and just putting it next to it on speaker. So it was like a speaker phone with recording on another. So I was interviewing like Boss Rutan and Scotty Riggs and like these dudes on one phone next to another phone. And then just like Jeremy said, you just find platforms that will let you upload it. And that was see, like the only guy who had to figure it out back then was the Solid Monster. He's still going strong, but he had to figure it out back in like 2010 or whatever it was when he started his show. So
I was going to say he's been doing it for like I think he's been doing it since 2007 if I remember correctly. He's the innovator of it, man. I feel like, and he's the one. You're right. Like he's still going strong after all these years. And I often look at him. And he's been on the show before as well. And I often look at him and like, damn, if I would have really like hyper focused on YouTube of all things. maybe I could have been in that realm as well. Cause like, that was another thing that was like, oh, nobody's watching YouTube. What the hell is this? You know what I mean? Like total boomer mindset where it's like, oh, this is never going to work and blah, blah, blah. And then now, you know, everybody's on the YouTube, but it is crazy, man, to see that, like you said, the progression of things. Again, Napster, you never knew what you were going to download. You never knew what you were going to get. And like, you know, you're trying to find the new Limp Bizkit record, and all of a sudden you get somebody just screaming, and you're like, what the frick is this? Like, what's going on here? You know?
Oh yeah, you get constantly trolled by like South Park audio clips.
Oh yeah,
like,
God
and
almighty.
like it would. I had a buddy of mine. Shout out to one of my best friends, Daniel Sowerson. If he watches this, he used to work for the Pelicans and the New Orleans Pelicans and Orlando Magic. He was doing NBA broadcasting for quite a while. And back when we were in college together, he's the only guy I've ever known where he actually got busted for sharing D for L Laffy Taffy. That was the song.
Dude, Laffy Taffy? Oh,
yeah.
Dude, that's on bangs.
Yes.
We'll not have any Laffy Taffy slander.
Well, they were a group from Statesboro, which is where we went to college. So like they were actually pretty big around there. So like Laffy Taffy, but like because we lived in the dorms and he didn't know about like not having his file sharing turned on or whatever, they like actually busted him and he had some sort of like probation or whatever for like 6 months for sharing music.
Was it part of the RIAA lawsuits? Because I got a story on that for you.
Positive.
All right. So then you're only the second person I've ever met that's known someone from that. I'm the first person who knows someone, I feel like. So do you guys remember the band Valencia?
I know of them. I don't know their songs, but I know the name.
So I grew up with some of the guys. Some of them were friends of mine. And the guitarist for the band is a guy named Brendan Walter. Brendan Walter is the brother of one of my very close friends' wife. Wonderful guy. Danielle's great. Chris Weddy's great. Awesome people, right? Well, Brendan, we were sitting there BSing a couple years ago, and he drops this on me. He was talking about it, and he was like, oh, and that's why I hate, that's why I'll never listen to Smash Mouth again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like just joking around. Here it turns out he was selected, like picked randomly by RIAA for the lawsuits because he illegally downloaded something by Smash Mouth. And he was one of like the first like 40 or 50 people that got sued effectively. And he's like, I can't talk about the settlement. I can't talk about any of that stuff. He's like, but yeah, I was one of those people. And I was like, for Smash Mouth, dude? He was like, dude, I was young. What do you want from me? But it was like, it's crazy. Like I forgot about the seriousness of all that. So did you watch the documentary that Eminem did on Paramount about Napster and all that?
I want to. I saw they made that documentary, and it is on kind of my list to watch. But I have not seen it yet.
Crazy times, man. Crazy times.
I always thought that, when you as you mentioned, when you download those files, you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
I always thought I downloaded "Just Don't Give a Fuck" by Eminem, but it was over the Hail Mary beat. And I thought that was the original, when I heard the actual song, I was like, this is the wrong song. No. Yeah. The Hail Mary beat is the actual song because that's all I knew for the longest time.
That would happen. That happened to me with some songs too. I'd hear the wrong version and think that was the legit one. It happened a lot back then. Yeah, you're right.
There's a record I'll never forget. I probably still have it somewhere in my cloud here or something. So do you remember when Ja Rule and DMX and Jay-Z started? Do you remember what they were called back in the day? So they were the original Murder Inc., right? That was the original trio of rappers. And then they ended up doing a cut on Ja Rule's Veni Vidi Vici album called It's Murder. And so when I downloaded the song before I heard the actual record, before we got Ja Rule's record, on that cut, somebody had interspliced a 16 by Eminem on it. This place is my house. I paint my face with white out and shaving Mace's eyebrows. That rhyme. I don't know if you remember that one. And I've heard it on a record. It was right after, I think Jay's the first one on the song, or Ja or whatever it was, but it was like cut in between. And for years, I thought that was the record, the original cut, and Eminem wasn't approved to be on a record. And here it was just somebody cutting it in. And I'm like, man, like even back then, imagine being that like creative or like able to look at those things and go, I'm going to splice this in. Like how'd they get the instrumentals? How did they, like, you couldn't get an instrumental back then unless it was on a fucking vinyl, or like a tape deck. Like, how did you do this? And so I don't know.
It blows my mind with that kind of stuff. People who were so like forward thinking when it came, like, even around kind of that time was when like E-Bombs World was like the big, like YouTube wasn't even around yet. So like E-Bombs World was where I used to go to like watch anything that was kind of viral videos back then.
E-Bombs World. Oh my God, man.
And
now you're
I remember,
dude.
Well, speaking of splicing, if you remember those Fensler Films G.I. Joe parodies, those were huge.
Oh my God, the one
the guy with the microphone.
Pork chop sandwiches. Yes. Yeah, I remember.
Dude, I used to know a kid in high school. There was back in high school, dude, I'm so glad you reminded me of this. I'll do another shout out. This guy will never hear this. I haven't talked to this guy in 20 something years. This guy, Iman Rahimi. I'll never forget. I didn't even know him that well in high school. And I'll never forget, he was wearing a red shirt one day in school that said pork chop sandwiches on it. And I walked up to him and I was like, G.I. Joe. And he was like, like, dude, I can't believe other people know about this. This is so great.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, there was this. So Kurt's brother, the guy I mentioned earlier, Kurt is also a rapper friend of mine. And like I said, I've known him since high school. He has a brother named Josh Moonshine. Now, Moonshine's not his name. It's his gimmick name, whatever. But he made electronic music and like EDM and all that stuff. And there's the one G.I. Joe. We were all drinking at Kurt's house one night and Josh was there and he had this in the living room, this big fucking table with the whole setup and the computers and stuff. And somebody pulled up a G.I. Joe clip, and it was the one with the reggae song. And it, when they just started doing to make a boss rider. Right. Yeah. So he takes that part of the song, and we're all hammered drunk, right? And he takes that part of the song, and he makes the sickest fucking beat out of this record. And I wish I still had it. I had it somewhere, but it was like boom, like organs and shit, man. It was unbelievable. But yeah, dude, that was the move back then, man. Shout out to Gillespie Street there, but. No, that was a wild time to be. It was like the Wild West of the internet. Like you just never knew. Like everything was just crappy, and you never knew what you're going to get on there.
Get into the AOL chat rooms.
Oh, you don't even want to bring that up on here.
Wait, hold on. What were your Instagram or what were your AIM names?
Oh, mine was Ampline for Life, which is, I still use, it's a dummy email. If you want to use Ampline for Life at AOL.com, I use that for all my spam. But it's a hockey term. It's a hockey term. The Avalanche had a line, Alex Tanguay, Milan Hayduk, Peter Forsberg, the Amp line. So that's all it was. Okay. Very simple hockey line. I think I had one, like, you could change like your username and stuff. I'm pretty sure I had one that was like XX Roland, XX69 or something. Everyone, or 316. Everyone did that shit.
Dude. Yeah, I definitely had like 4 of them on AIM. Yeah. Like, I think my first one was just like DX 2008 because it was like, I was a fan of wrestling and like DX wasn't even a group at the time. Like they hadn't been around and this was before they did their big reunion or whatever. So like, I was just a wrestling mark was like DX. And then I had other stupid ones too along the way also that like, we're just not going to even repeat here because this is going to sound like a complete moron. But that was the Wild West. That was when like things were like totally unregulated and like I mean in a lot of ways I kind of miss those days. Like there's a good reason that a lot of that is like has been taken from us. Like a lot of us abused the system for a little too long and then like they had to pull back the reins on us. But we're of that age of like we were learning along with the technology because we're like kids. So like we're that in between, that weird in between of like not having it and like having the beginning of it and learning along with it. So like a lot of the stuff I feel like that our generation may have done or said and stuff back in the day. I know a lot of the stuff like, sometimes it's bad look or whatever, but y'all got to understand the times we were living in was like completely uncharted territory.
Oh my God.
So much of this stuff.
It was like looking back on like when they do the Facebook on this day review, I have the least in common with like 2007, 2008 me on Facebook. Like I have no idea who this person is. And I fancy myself a pretty solid writer too. Like I've been published in a bunch of different things and I've won awards as a teenager and I'm reading some of this shit. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like delete. Thank you for reminding me this crap is here. Delete. Like, I don't need to see this shit all ever again. Dude, I'm like, the hell with that.
It's so funny you bring that up because I'm working out right now that you're saying this because I don't use Facebook for like anything anymore. Except for when this day thing happens. That's usually when something will pop up and I'll delete it.
That's literally
all I do.
I check it every single day just to be like, all right, delete that. Oh, that one can stay. That's all right. Something about Barack Obama winning the presidency. I'm like, oh, I'll keep that one. But everything else, I'm like, no, get rid of it. The hell with this crap.
Yeah, it's just me like drunk tweeting people in college, like a complete moron. You know, it's like, yeah, this doesn't need to be on the internet.
Yeah,
All right. I don't know why
I
that's out there.
I am purging this forever. Thank you. Yep. God Almighty, man.
Oh, man.
So
What a time.
get a little back on track as far as wrestling.
Sorry, guys.
No. This was fantastic. Jensen and I being able to relive a lot of this stuff is very fun.
Yeah, what awards have you won? You just mentioned awards.
Oh, so yeah. So when I was in high school, like I said, I did I used to write for the Bucks County Courier-Times, and I did a profile piece on my uncle. Actually, I was like a biography piece, and I won. It was the Youth Editors Association of America Award. It was some big national thing, and I placed like second or third in that. And I thought that was pretty dope. Like I thought that was, as a 15-year-old kid writing his like kind of his first big piece in the newspaper, was like, oh, this is awesome, right? And then shortly after that, I did a bunch of panel discussions in Bucks County about like teen issues and stuff, and I was kind of like really tied in with a lot of those things that were happening, and kind of part of all those discussions in Bucks County. So it's cool. It was cool to be a part of, and like I said, I made a lot of friends. Like Bob is still a friend, and people I still talk to in the space. It's cool, but. I still write too. I write for Body Slam, obviously. I still photograph. I'll photograph a lot of like music shows, and I do a lot of write-ups for a site called Live for Live Music. I photographed John Mayer. I actually photographed the very, very last, at least as of right now, Rage Against the Machine show on the floor of Madison Square Garden. And let me tell you something, man, that was a fucking experience and a half. That was something that I don't think I'll ever forget for the rest of my life. But yeah. So that's about, I think it was, Youth Editors Association of America when I was 15 years old. And that's still somewhere in here safely.
I think you talked a little bit about this when we had you on In the Weeds, when you were talking about the Chad Gable column. But what was the best live show you've ever attended?
For what, like wrestling?
Well, we can do wrestling and music, but I was mainly curious about music because you mentioned the Rage Against the Machine concert.
Yeah, I mean, for years, like I would have told you, Bruce Springsteen, Lincoln Financial Field. It was the second show they had ever done in the Link. It was like Bruce had a string of 3 shows. Shout out to John Alba, by the way. Bruce had a show of second best hair in the game. So. He has the second best hair in the game. But so Bruce had a string of shows that were the first, I think, of the first when they reopened or when they opened the Link here in Philly, and I went to night 2, and that was an amazing show. I mean, Bruce played for like, I don't know, it was like 2 hours. I guess the best music show, probably just from a production standpoint, I would say Eminem and Jay-Z Home and Home tour, Brooklyn, New York in 2010. That was an unbelievable experience. Like Eminem had, Dr. Dre come out. I thought everything in Yankee Stadium was going to fall apart when Dr. Dre came out. The whole place went fucking ballistic, right? 50 Cent and G-Unit were still like a thing then, and that they went crazy. D12 came and performed. He had a significant amount of people, and then Jay-Z came out, and then Eminem came back, and they did Renegade together. If I recall correctly, I believe Kanye West was there that night. I don't believe Alicia Keys was there. And then he did a whole Biggie medley, and then he did the Linkin Park cut as well, which was just unbelievable. But from a presentation standpoint, I would say like Jay-Z, Eminem, second only to the Roots in 2003 in Philadelphia. They were, if you've never seen a Roots show live before, like do it as soon as you can, because they're just incredible live. Wrestling that I've seen live, probably WrestleMania 40. I think there isn't really one that I can think of that I've seen, that I've been a part of or been like involved with in some way, going to an event live rather, that I've seen that's probably been better than 40. That was just an experience and a half. That was incredible.
I mean, you were there live to witness the greatest match in the history of professional wrestling when Cody Rhodes defeated Roman Reigns to become the WWE champion. So
Youth Pastor Cody Rhodes, after, of course, going and leading Sunday service in the morning for the youth, comes and defeats our tribal chief in the middle of the ring in the sweet city of my hometown, Philadelphia. With Gentleman James Uso, you have Undertaker. Was just literally, I think, perhaps, dare I say, Stephen, perhaps the greatest professional wrestling match in the history of the world.
I completely agree with that. I wouldn't even, that's not even remotely debatable, as a matter of fact. I'm really happy you're saying these things.
It's in the Geneva Convention. So, Jeremy, you
Yeah.
can put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Just
If you
straight fact.
disagree, if you disagree, you can argue with the wall, sir.
We have to stop this. This is propaganda. This,
No.
this
How dare
wanna-
you?
propaganda.
You want to know what's really funny, Adam?
Yeah.
So I've been watching wrestling similar to you. I started watching wrestling when I was probably about 6 years old. So for me, it was about 1994. And I've been watching, The Undertaker for a really, really long time. And I was never really an Undertaker fan. I'm not going to lie. I was always a big Sting, like Sting's better than Undertaker, But then Undertaker saved Cody at WrestleMania, and now I'm buying all the Undertaker merch, dude. Like, I'm totally in on Taker. It took a long time, but like Undertaker's a GOAT, and I respect it. Now I'm watching his podcast all the time now. So
I believe it. I believe it.
It's like on Impulsive.
It's because of the fact that he came out to save Pastor Cody at the very end, and it's because of that he redeemed himself to you. So I appreciate that. That's good stuff. I appreciate that.
And maybe Steve Austin was, supposed to be there, or like maybe he wanted to be there, or maybe like he didn't. I don't know what the case is, but Undertaker showed up, that's for sure, and he got the job done. So
we know he was there. We know we saw him. He came. We saw him for a second when the lights, because they did the magic, and he showed up, and you're like, oh, how did he get here? Cave, I don't know how he got here. Jeremy, do you know how he got there? When the lights were off, and then he came back on, and he was gone. Like,
it was so good. So I've rewatched it many times. I've also watched a lot of the fan footage, like a bunch of different angles from the venue of people recording on their phones of Cody winning. It was really great. I wish I was there live. I don't do airplanes. The last time I've flown was actually for Jeremy's wedding, and that's the last time I'm ever going to do it. I hate airplanes, so I don't fly. But luckily, Bad Blood is coming here to Atlanta in a couple months, so I'll get to see Cody as the champion then. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's right. There was I'm sorry. I'm gonna pretend, Mr. Lambert, that I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's just you got to deal with it on this show.
I mean, if it wasn't for Roman Reigns on Saturday, Cody might not even be the champion. So
wow. All right, I'm out of here.
Thank you to our tribal chief.
I can't.
Blasphemy.
I'm not. I know you know this, Jeremy. This is the only reason I'm even saying it publicly. A lot of the time when me and Jeremy are live on our show, his wife is DMing me, like apologizing. Like literally. Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I mean, everyone's already heard this by this point, but yes, you were going to get trolled very much of Cody needed Roman on Saturday, and that Cody was going to lose if it was not for Roman Reigns. So you can go ahead and prepare your defense now.
I'll be ready.
I'm giving you a warning of what's going to happen. Because Cody's going to lose until Roman Reigns showed up.
See, that conversation will have already happened right before people are seeing this interview. So y'all let us know in the comments below what before you heard us do this interview, how did that go between me and Jeremy earlier? Let us know in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe.
No body bag. 3-0. No debate. No debate. Adam, what got you in? What got you into wrestling, Adam?
Oh man,
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, it was Hogan and Andre. Honestly, it was because I guess I'm 39, so I was probably 89 or 90, I think, the first time. So my dad used to take us to. We grew up in Levittown in Pennsylvania, and there was a video store called Clyde's Video Store, and we used to go there like once a week. And at some point, I guess when I was younger, my dad got WrestleMania 3 because he was trying to find things for us to watch and things like that. And I didn't know if he was a fan or not, but I watched Hogan and Andre for the first time. And for me, it was like, I'm sold. I want to watch this forever and ever until the end of time. So we suffered through the TJ Hopper days and Duke the Dumpster Droese and, all that awful crap in the 90s and then got to the Attitude Era. The only time I really kind of tuned out was the Big Dog era, 2013, 14. I wasn't around for the Shield. I had to go back and kind of catch up on all that. But I was kind of not great on it because Roman was the character of Roman Reigns at the time was kind of dog shit, and it was just not pleasant to watch. It wasn't until about probably Kofi Mania around that time, I think, or maybe before that. I don't remember when the Fiend started, but I think it was around the same time where I really kind of locked in again. And that was what it was I'm starting to enjoy some of the things I watch here. And I think that was probably around the time I kind of locked back in. But yeah, oh God, that Vince or the Roman Reigns and Triple H match from what WrestleMania was that?
32.
32.
Oh,
32.
yeah, man.
So, the wife and I were having a conversation about that match the other day. So we were talking about length of pay-per-views. and everything. And I like 4 hours is fine for me. If you're doing 7 to 11, I'm fine with like 4 hours. It's okay. But like Mania went from like, I was at 30, Jensen, you were at 30. And that was like probably like 3.5 hours or so.
Right.
Like but it went by pretty fast. And then 31 was a little long, but it didn't feel like super, super long. Maybe that was like 4 hours. And then 32 was every bit of like 5.5 hours, and it just jumped out of nowhere. Like Reigns and Triple H weren't in, it was past midnight and they were finally getting in the ring, and we were like, what is happening with this show? But yeah, that was every bit of like 5.5 hours. So it went from like 4 to 5.5 with no warning, and it's like, nope, we cannot do this anymore.
I mean, there was some of that stuff too. Like I would keep in and out like over the years, like the ruthless aggression stuff and some of the more like, I was a big Batista fan. Like I always liked watching John Cena, CM Punk. Like I was a big fan of him back then too. So I watch a lot of that. And then like, I think really what kind of turned me off was, I think that was 31 or 32 when Sting was there? I can't remember.
That was 32 as well.
32. And
no, that was 31. Sorry.
That was 31 in California. Yeah.
And I remember watching it and being like, oh yeah, Sting has to go over here, right? Like this and then watching him lose, and I was like, forget it. Like I'm done. Like this is insane.
So disappointing. That was so disappointing because their excuse apparently for that was because that on that same show, remember like Ronda Rousey, Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, they all had that whole thing in the ring. Apparently that was all done where it was like, well, we're gonna build to Triple H versus The Rock next year, so we got to have Triple H, beat Sting, and then that match didn't even wind up happening the next year. So like it was a total waste.
Rock couldn't even commit to it. It was just like, so you like this is crazy. Yeah, this is crazy.
Dude, I'm with you. And to some of the other stuff you mentioned, just real quick, I'll also agree. Like kind of some of the time that you missed there. I'll say really the Shield and Danielson were really like the only bright spots I feel like for a few years there. So you really didn't miss a whole lot. But it's fun to probably go back and watch that stuff. Yeah. And then the video store stuff you mentioned also very relatable because I used to have a rival Blockbuster and Hollywood Video right across the street on the same road growing up, and that was a big deal. And people from that aren't of our generation don't understand how important those video stores were, especially to like discover new things. Because I was a wrestling fan, but like I didn't have the ability to watch pay-per-view. This is old school. You guys are going to know about this. I knew what channel the pay-per-views were. And so I would turn it on my TV and it would just be the ants or the scrambled screen. Yeah. But I would listen to the WCW and WWF commentators and they'd paint me the picture, and every now and then something would slip through. Yeah. That went for all different types of pay-per-views, boys and girls. Yeah. So
I understood that reference. Yeah. So
those are the days.
I can tell you, I won't say for sure, but there was a potential of me having what they used to call a hot box back in the day. Do you remember what the hot boxes were?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were the ones that were gimmicked so you could get everything free. Mm-hmm. And allegedly, the trick was you pull the cable line out of the back, or the coax cable out of the back, and you plug it back in a certain way, and it activates all of the channels so you could get everything. Allegedly, of course.
Yes,
so
allegedly,
the rumor and innuendo is that we watched every pay-per-view for free throughout pretty much the entire late 1990s, early 2000s until they transitioned to everything else.
I allegedly had a friend who also had one of those, so that was allegedly the place to congregate for WCW pay-per-views back in the day.
Of course.
And also when I came to those video stores, man, because for that, the reason I brought up not being able to watch pay-per-views because I'd rent these VHS tapes like months after the pay-per-view actually happened, but it would totally throw off my own timeline of like what I was watching on TV because I was so behind on the pay-per-views. Yep. But that's also how I discovered mixed martial arts, because they started putting UFC VHSs near the wrestling VHSs. So then I became an MMA fan as a kid because it was just sitting there and it was something to rent. So yeah, but nowadays I get like, now it's like streaming services and a lot of the same kind of thing could be relived a lot easier now, a lot more conveniently through Netflix and Peacock and stuff like that. But there's a charm to like driving out to the video store, see what was in stock, what wasn't, and like, kind of just picking what was there. And that was your options, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, there was a certain like, it was like unique, but it was also like, it was exciting to be able to go and like, oh man, do they have the new tape here? Or like, what new thing do they have from Coliseum Video? Or like, oh, what's WCW? What the hell is ECW? Like, where did I find these things? You know, and like you start discovering all these different things. And now I miss those days. You know, like it was like I said, it was looking back on it now. It was a really fun time to be a part of. And again, it gives us, as the elder statesman, it gives us the opportunity to be like, I remember ECW, and you'd have to go to WGTV at 2:00 in the morning. You know, it's like, all right, grandpa, time for bed. ECW, you're out of your fucking mind. I don't know what that is. So
ECW, they still cash in on that as much as they can.
Yeah,
with that one
still.
Man.
You know, I still remember not like it took me the longest time to actually watch the documentary Beyond the Mat because I always saw the VHS tape in Blockbuster, but the cover was like the guys that were dressed as The Rock and Mankind and stuff. So I thought it was some like knockoff movie. So like for years I just didn't watch it. And then like when I realized what it was, I was like, this is the greatest documentary I've seen in my life. Why have I never seen this before? Yeah.
Crazy, man. Absolutely crazy.
Those are the days. Anyway, go ahead,
Adam.
Jeremy.
Oh well, unfortunately, we have to wind down here.
We got to talk about the show with Blue Meanie, right? I mean,
for sure.
Talk about that.
Yeah. How did that come together?
So, Meanie and I linked up. God, it was probably 2021. We were like, so Meanie and I had actually been Facebook friends since like I think like 2009 or 2010. I just randomly added him on Facebook. He accepted my request. So I've been kind of like following him. And actually, it's funny. It's a funny story. I wish I still had the message, but I actually invited him to my bachelor party in 2012 because I thought maybe Blue Meanie would show up and it'd be a good time. He did not read the message, and we laughed about that when we first got together. But the previous host wanted to, he had some commitments with a new station he was going to be working with and a new job. So he linked me up with Meanie and was like, so Meanie and I like just kind of clicked right away. And then like a fill-in show became like almost every other week through the end of 2021. And then we started doing the show together in 2022. And it just has become like an amazing thing in my life. Like, it's so much fun. Like, he's got some amazing stories. Watching him too as a teenager and being like, oh my God, he like the Blue World Order. We loved them when we were kids. Like they were amazing. Right. And then now getting to kind of talk to him and talk with him and pick his brain about all the things that are going on in wrestling and, you know, just his career. Like he'll drop some tidbits on me and I'm like, let's talk about that. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let's back up here. Right. So, no, it's a lot of fun. Our new shows, our episodes drop every Monday, at 6 a.m. And actually, breaking news for you, we're going to be, depending on when this is going to be released, we're actually joining One True Sport, which is Paul Bromwell's venture. Our show is going to be joining that network within the next week or so. So we're going to have our official announcement coming out. But this is a tidbit for you. We're going to be releasing that. So very excited to join them and be a part of that world as well. But we've been going to about 2 years. Actually, this is our third full year together, 2024. So it's a lot of fun, man. Meanie's a great guy and very funny. And really, it's a lot of fun.
It's awesome. This will be airing tomorrow morning, by the way. So that's
perfect. That's fine. So I'll get the official announcement together tonight and make sure it's out tomorrow as we go live with this. So
yes, and also send it to me. I'll run an article on it. And, make sure to promote it, plug it to whatever I can do. I've met Blue Meanie once. I guarantee he has no recollection of who I am. It was at StarCast 2019 at Full Gear weekend. He was there. Super nice. Again, probably had no idea who I am, had no idea of memory, but very personable and talked to me for a couple of minutes about like nothing. And it was fun. Very nice guy.
It's an awesome guy. He's like I said, he's so personable. And what I love so much about Meanie is like when I talk to people about doing the show, or I talk to wrestling fans in general, they're like, oh, you have, it's like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I have Foundation Radio. And then I'm like, oh, I do this show with, I don't know if you remember ECW. I do a show with the Blue Meanie, and every single time, oh my God, the Blue Meanie, I fucking love that guy. He's amazing. Where can I listen to the show? And it's just like, it's cool to be like associated with that. Right. And like, I always tell him every time I go somewhere, if I'm wearing the BWO shirt or I start talking about him, I'm like, bro, like you are beloved in the streets, man. Like I have not met someone in this space who is as beloved as the Blue Meanie is everywhere I go. And I think that's a testament to him as an individual and also as a performer, that just like so many people, like everybody has the same reaction. Like I fucking love the Blue Meanie. He's the coolest. And like, I don't know. That says something about the person in general. And I just think he's a great guy. So
For sure. I've always been a fan of his as well. Big time when he was a part of ECW, loved the BWO. He'll always be a legend for how he handled that whole JBL situation, the WWE.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, so yeah, I think it's really cool to get to do a show with him. I wanted to ask you before I completely forget, because are you familiar on YouTube with a Adam Barnard 7196?
That's probably my one of my other accounts. My kids use the account. Is that it's their Lego videos on there?
Stop action videos of Legos.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my kids, my kids, they took over one of my accounts. My sons, actually, James and Daniel, they took over one of my accounts and they were like, "Oh, Dad, I want you to do stop motion videos," because they want to be YouTube stars, because everybody wants to be a fucking YouTube star. I was like, "Yeah, kids, go ahead, go and take that." And then they use the iPad or my cell phone or my wife's phone, and they make their stop motion videos. And then they watch something called Pibby stuff. I don't know if you guys know what Pibby is, but it's like these like glitchy characters. And then I think there's a video on there where my son is like drawing a Pibby Mario or something. I don't know what the fuck they do, but I'm like, as long as you guys are not doing anything stupid on there, you'll be fine. And so they check with me before they upload. But yes, that is that is me. I
thought that was you on the thumbnail. I was like, this can't be a coincidence.
It's me as the Gmail, but it's actually the kids using it. So yeah, no, that is.
I see.
Yeah, so that's that.
It's cool though. I actually watched all the videos while we were sitting here. And I turned them. I watched them all just a second ago.
I'll let them know. They'll be like, "Oh my god, I got another view!" Like I can't believe it. You know, it's like they're it counts to them like 15 views. They're like, "Dad, did you know I got 15 views on my Lego video?" I'm like, "Dude, that is freaking amazing!" You know. So yeah, I'll tell him he's gonna love it. So.
Last YouTube related question, and this is very off topic, but it's relevant to the actual day that this is being recorded. Mm-hmm. Are your kids familiar, or I'm sure they're familiar, are they fans of Mr. Beast?
So I think they're aware of who Mr. Beast is.
Okay.
But I don't know what their fandom level is. I know they're big fans of there's a guy named Sunday that they watch a lot. There's another show called Unspeakable that they're big fans of. But I don't know if they watch any of Mr. Beast's stuff.
Okay, I was just curious because, like Mr. Beast, the most subscribed YouTube channel in the world, over like 300 million subs or whatever. But he's got a lot of controversy going on right now on the channel. And in about an hour, there is a video coming out that's supposed to be uploaded by a YouTuber called Dogpack404. That's apparently going to massively expose him. So anyone who's watching this, that's what I'm going to be doing later tonight. I have been engulfed in, or I shouldn't say engulfed. What's the right word? I've been
engrossed.
Nonstop watching this. Yes, for like weeks. I've been just watching this Mr. Beast drama stuff on YouTube like every day while I'm working from home and stuff. And tonight's apparently going to be a big night for that. So I was only curious because I know he's really big. I know he's really big with kids. So I'm also kind of giving some parents a heads up here. That right. Depending on kind of what does or doesn't come out, how things go, like you may want to, he has a lot of influence. You may want to be careful, kind of depending on what comes out and stuff. So.
Well, I appreciate the heads up, and I'll let them know either way. Like, hey, probably. Yeah, the problem is though, like my kids, like they're like Daniel, my second son. He's just like, first of all, he's 2024's biggest hater next to Kendrick Lamar and CM Punk. Like he's just the biggest hater in the world. But he's also the kind of kid that will sit and just like search for something that he's not supposed to find, and like so we have the smart TVs and shit. And he'll just like, if you tell him like, oh, don't look up that video for Mr. Beast, in 10 minutes, he'll be like, Dad, I found the Mr. Beast video you told me not to watch. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? So like,
dude,
he's just,
that's so instinct, though. That was us when we were on the internet.
I mean, like I said, he's like, actually, so here, hold on. I'll show you something. So my older son, James has this stuffed Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Daniel decided one day that he was going to roll his hair back like this to make him look like Captain Picard. And James fucking hates it. Like it makes him insane. So whenever James is like in his space where he's angry about something, Daniel will literally stop what he's doing and he'll run up and grab this thing and go, Dad, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And James hits the fucking roof. So he must have left it. He must have been fucking with him earlier, but I just saw that. So that's Danny's life right there. But
love it.
Jeremy, kids are great, aren't they?
That is siblings. Yes, that is kids. That is siblings. That's how that works.
Let me tell you, I'm the biggest hater. So.
Adam, before we wrap up here, the one question we ask everybody on the show: what is the coolest thing in your room?
Let's see. Because I got a lot here. The coolest thing in my room is probably, hold on, I'll show you. It's this Ken Griffey Jr. baseball card.
Ooh, very nice.
So apparently this is like kind of valuable. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to send it out to get graded. But I'm a big Ken Griffey Jr. fan. He's the best baseball player in the history of existence, also in the Geneva Convention. I actually got to see him play live, and so the Mariners were playing the Red Sox. I think it was 93 or 90. It wasn't 94. That was the strike season. So I think it was 93. And I got to see him play at Fenway Park. And if I recall correctly, I believe he hit a home run that game. So that to me was like, okay, I can die happy. I'm 8 years old. I'm like, okay, this is perfect. A perfect way to segue out of life. But no, I would say just for the nostalgia purposes and just because he's my favorite ball player, like I would say it's this baseball card.
That's awesome. Ken Griffey Jr. was the absolute man in the 1990s. Like the video games were based around him. He was the cool guy with the backwards hat, with the cool swing, hitting dingers. I mean, that was peak me as a baseball fan back then. As a matter of fact, I'm not much of like a shoe head. I have a few pairs of shoes that I kind of splurged on, and I own 2 pairs of those Griffies that like were out recently. So
really?
I had to get 2 different colors of them. I love those things.
So jealous, dude. That is freaking amazing. I would love to have those. Actually, I just bought a Roots of Fight shirt for Ken Griffey Jr. That's like an old like home run derby shirt or whatever it is. Oh man, I came in. I was like, I am so happy right now. So cool. I would say Ken Griffey Jr. card. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Adam, we appreciate you joining us here tonight. Let everybody know where they can find you at.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I always look forward to working with you, Jeremy and Joel. I hope Joel is drowning in jealousy right now and up there in beautiful sunny Canada. Actually, he'd probably be drowning in poutine, if I recall correctly, because that's the official national dish, right? You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, because I'm never calling it X, TikTok. You can find me at This Is Goober. Yes, it's my handle. No, I'm not changing it. It's a brand. You can also listen to my show with the Blue Meanie, Mind of the Meanie, every Monday at 6 a.m. And you can also find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@mindofthemeanie. You also go to Foundation Radio it's youtube.com/@Foundation Radio Pod. You can watch all my interviews with Bailey, Rhea Ripley, Jade Cargill from this past week at SummerSlam. I also have stuff up there with Shayna Baszler, the Alpha Academy, Baron Corbin. You can also listen to my political interviews with Robert Costa and the former Congressman Joe Walsh, as well as my music interviews with Asher Roth, and Ernie Hudson's been on the show as well. So there's a little bit of something for everybody on that station. So you can find me all there. And you can read my articles at bodyslam.net. I have some more commentaries and op-eds that are coming out there very soon. Recently just did a piece on comparing Chad Gable to Ajax, the mythological figure from Greek mythology. And I also do publish work for Live for Live Music, which is where you can find all my music content. You can see all my write-ups on John Mayer, Rage Against the Machine, Run the Jewels, and a host of other folks. So thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I look forward to being back again soon.
Thanks for joining us, man. And yeah, I feel like we didn't even get into half the stuff we could have gotten into with everything. We just went on a nostalgia kick, and like we love doing that stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. So now it's just an excuse for me to come back. So you let me know. We'll get through that first list. Yeah,
100%. Adam, thank you again. All the links are below, guys. You can go check out his work. And I do want to say, face to face now, great job this weekend.
Thanks,
I of course listened to the interviews with Bailey, with Jade, with Rhea, covered what I could from them, and great moment with Jade when you give the drawing to her and everything. That was really fun. That was really fun.
That was a lot of fun. Sophie was very excited about that. So she was it was a cool little full circle moment for her. So I appreciate the coverage on my work as well. Thank you.
Oh, look, I try to cover good people who do good work, and that's all I can do my best when it comes to that stuff. Again, it was a pleasure actually meeting you in person this week. So guys, check out the links below. Follow Adam. You can go to the X handle, Twitter handle, and the YouTube links, and Twitter. And
it's Twitter.
It's Twitter. It's Twitter. Thank you so much, Adam. Guys, we'll be right back here on the Spotlight. We're back. Big thank you to Adam Barnard for joining us. Everyone go check out, go support. He's been in the chat. I see him here in the chat, Foundation Radio, talking up with you guys, talking some music. Adam's very insightful on that. I always love talking about the hip hop with Adam. I saw somebody mention Dat Piff. That was a sad day when Dat Piff closed down. That's where all the mixtapes were. Used to go there all the time. Just download the latest mixtape, burn it onto a CD, and then sell it for like $5. Adam and I mentioned the Napster documentary. I think it's the docuseries on Paramount. I actually started that last night. I watched the first episode last night after the conversation we had with Adam. It was something that I've been meaning to check out, and then time gets away from me. But last night I could not fall asleep, so I put it on, and I've watched episode 1 of that. So I look forward to continuing to dive into that. Big thank you to Adam. Again, links are below. Go support everything he does. Guys, thank you for tuning in this morning. Thank you for all the super chats. Thank you for the thumbs up on the videos. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Go check out Fightful Overbooked, fightfuloverbooked.com. Check out all of the stuff we have going on there, including In the Weeds every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern. I got to remember these times. 10 a.m. to noon Eastern, In the Weeds. Again, fightfuloverbooked.com. Rob and Maggie coexisting. Maggie is always in the chat here with us on the Spotlight mornings. Coexisting 3 p.m. Eastern every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, coexisting with Rob and Maggie. We got Indeed with Mike and Reg. They did a new episode last night. You can go check that out with Indeed, Mike and Reg. That is every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I don't think I missed anything. I think that's everything. We're doing some different things with Fightful Overbooked. I think we're undergoing some changes. I don't know anything about them. It's allegedly a channel that I run, but I don't know anything that goes on this channel. So, what can you do? We'll be back next week, everybody. We'll talk all the wrestling that's happening. Everyone enjoy your weekend. I don't believe there's any major shows this weekend, which is a rarity when there's no major shows. So, if you have the weekend to yourself, enjoy that. Go out, go do some other things that are not wrestling related. Everyone just enjoy your weekend. Take care, everyone. We'll be back next week. Bye, everybody.